You didn't give me any qualifications. Starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have.
I mean, first off, that's a pretty serious accusation there. Do you want to name any of the senators that you're saying are drinking on the job?
No, and that's my whole point is that these senators on the other side of the aisle was trying to act like they had more morals than Pete Hegseth, and they don't. If you're going to hold someone accountable for their behavior, then hold everybody accountable. I'm not saying I'm the most moral man or the perfect individual. I'm absolutely not. I wasn't the one calling him out. But if you're going to hold someone at that standard, then hold everybody at that standard. And it's a complete hypocrisy what they were showing. When they were talking about his affairs, there's multiple members of Congress that's had affairs on their wives, and that they haven't called to be stepped down. They haven't called them to step down either. And then when it talks about qualifications, what is the qualification to be the Secretary of Defense? The only qualification is you got to be a United States citizen. That's it. Other than that, it is the president's choice, and the Senate has the right to advise and consent, and he meets the qualifications to be the next Secretary of Defense.
But I was in that room today, and when you said that, I guess the thought that went through my head was, if what you're saying is true, and your colleagues do show up drinking to come to work and vote, which I think would maybe be concerning to those taxpayers who pay them, how is the bad behavior of a sitting senator a defense of someone who wants to run the Pentagon?
It's not. What they were saying is he was incapable of doing his job. And Caitlin, what I was trying to get to is, if you're capable of doing your job and you're able to still drink on the job or late in the evening, then don't tell me that Pete can't. And Pete had already said he's not going to drink, but they just kept hammering it. Pete is qualified to do the job. He's a combat veteran. He's 20-year combat veteran. He's been under fire. He's pulled his own friends out of a combat zone. He's had to bury his own friends that's got killed in combat. The guy has bled, he has sweat, and he has proven his ability for his love for this country. He will do what needs to be done. What's the definition of insanity? Is doing the same thing, expecting different results. And we keep recycling the same type of people as the Secretary of Defense. And where have they got us? Nowhere. President Trump is wanting to put people in the place that's going to shake things up and do things different.
Doing a news show, and that is what happened in the news.
Oh, we're live. Hello, humans. Welcome to your Power Report. This is the 16th of January, 2025. Caught myself. Thankfully, this is one of those years where we're transitioning over, and the year in English starts with the same sound, so I'm good. I am Dan from the internet. I am joined by Bam. I am joined by Ray. We'll soon be joined by comedian Ron Placone. We got a lot to talk about with him. We have a lot to talk about just like in general going on this week. But first of all, I have a new soundboard noise. Real ones know. Real ones know. Second of all, how are y'all doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Doing
Ray, go ahead.
Doing cold. It's fucking freezing here. It's so cold. Today's actually a little warmer. It's only 30 degrees outside, but this weekend it will be a high of 5.
Ooh.
So
we'll probably have a cool 70 this weekend.
King, 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 king. Yeah, with that fresh air, it's gonna be great. No, I mean, you know, we get fresh air, you get frigid air. It's actually great because Frigid Air is a good Midwestern company that's probably out of business at this point. But no,
all my appliances are Frigid Air.
Okay, so that it's not just my grandma who owned that shit. I'm sorry, I have one of those Samsungs where like, no, if I flaunt any of my wealth, Anna Kasparian will come after me. Anyways, this is not what this show is going to be about, mostly, generally. This is the last, days of the Biden administration. There's kind of a lot of stuff happening very quickly. I can't wait to talk about. I'm sure, Ray, you've been paying attention to the TikTok sort of like drama and how people are flocking to friendship ended with the supposedly Chinese app. New friendship started with the extremely Chinese app.
Zhao Hongshu. Everybody get over there.
I given the opportunity to not join a social network, I'm going to take that opportunity. But y'all have fun, and generally I've been enjoying what the interactions that people have been having. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Meanwhile, our Congress, it is in session. It has just started. As we started with that intro, it's been going great. They're talking about Pete Hegseth, which I gotta just get this out of the way. I played this game with Bam earlier this week, and C's and Sean, other Power Report cohorts. But go ahead. We'll do this for you, which is the point of the stream. But if you Google Pete Hegseth tattoo, in the words of Jeremy Clarkson, I was looking on the internet and I found this.
Oh wow. Huh.
Things that make you go,
Computer enhance.
That American flag with the gun underneath is scary as hell too. And what's the other thing right there?
Above it?
Yeah.
Loki, it looks like the Slytherin house crest from Harry Potter. He's
a transphobe too.
All he's missing is like on his right arm, which admittedly isn't pictured here, is the Punisher logo, and to prove that he's like even more evil, maybe just like a tattoo of the dirty bubble from
Blue
SpongeBob.
Lives Matter Punisher skull.
Right.
One Dan has on his car.
To be fair, that's just because I don't want to get stopped.
Wait. Really?
No.
Well, he has a gun, so
I don't put stickers on my car, is what I'll say.
Okay.
I will neither confirm nor deny whether I would do that in that situation. But this is gonna be an exciting show. That is Pete Hegseth, by the way, is most likely going to be the Secretary of Defense. I had an existential crisis because I've been trying to, other than the warpath and late last year, I've been trying to keep it kind of cool. Generally, knowing that the Trump administration is going to be a lot, and that's going to be happening on Martin Luther King Day because we had a dream. But I had to sit with myself and think like, yo, Marco Rubio is going to be like the Secretary of State, and I don't know what that says about Marco Rubio, Donald Trump, or the state Secretary of State.
I mean, Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. There's not that much difference to me.
Okay, President Marco Rubio coming soon. Trump's going to term out, maybe, or die, allegedly, maybe. I'm not saying I'm hoping for that. I'm just saying
I am.
The Big Mac diet isn't usually that cohesive for long life. That being said, as Bam has always said, and it's generally been proven by literal science, beakers, test tubes, and things of that nature, evil never dies. Henry Kissinger?
He died and he's still alive.
Bill Clinton. Dick Cheney died and he's still alive. He literally had like a reverse double heart transplant and he's still alive. No, yeah.
Well, do you guys? I wonder if Pete Hegseth is gonna do the whole term, because we know these Trump guys.
No.
You mean the heel turn?
Yeah, like I don't expect him to be around. Even I don't really think he'll last the whole year.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is he's not qualified for the job, and I mean, regardless of what Senator bullshit first name Mullins wants to say on CNN,
Mark Wayne.
I wanna talk about her poor questioning of him too, because it was embarrassing. I mean,
people
for fuck's sake.
Drink in Washington D.C. on the job. Heavens to Betsy.
But I mean, the thing with the incompetent Trump people being hoisted into these positions, let's say Pete Hegseth, like you said, he'll get this position. But once he's in there, it's going to become overwhelming for him. He's not going to be able to deliver on the things that he thinks he can. He's not going to be able to kill all trans people in the military or whatever, erase DEI, because at the end of the day, you can't get rid of those trainings without subsequently getting into a fuck ton of lawsuits, losing those lawsuits, hemorrhaging tons of money for those lawsuits. And so he won't be able to do what Trump expects him to do. Trump will turn on him. They'll have some falling out. And then he'll be accepted with open arms by whatever never Trump Republicans still exist. What happened to the Lincoln Project? Are they still around?
Midas touch.
I would imagine there'll be some kind of like, a soldier gets killed in Somalia and then Trump just blames him and he gets fired.
You would hope, but like, I was going to pose this question to both of you, but definitely to what you were saying, Ray, was just like, I think, Trump unpredictable, that's an easy prediction, right? But when I'm thinking about how Trump 2.0 is going to be, I'm thinking about the context of like how politicians and presidents generally in their second term, generally it's consecutive, but in a second term, let's knock on wood, you assume that Donald Trump has like nothing left to lose. He's like not looking to be elected again, even if we're not knocking on wood, that could be the opportunity. But like, you're gonna see someone who, could be different. Usually presidents in their second term are a little bit more like no holds barred, to the extent that they can be as president. I remember back in the halcyon days of 2014 and 2015 even, when Obama was doing a lot of executive orders and Republicans were crying about how it was overreach of the presidency, and essentially kind of used that to justify a lot of Donald Trump's actions. I said that all to say, I wonder if we're kind of, and what you're saying, Ray, at least to what I was understanding, is that like Donald Trump's going to do the same thing, and that I'm really hoping does with Elon Musk, where it's like burns out with people, and he's going to like run through your Marco Rubio's, your Pete Hegseth's, your Elon Musk's, hopefully, just like really, really quickly. And so hopefully, like, do you think that that's going to hold consistently this time, or not? I'm really curious to see what you think.
Bam.
No, he was talking to you.
He said both of us.
I mean, both of us. I did kind of say like, responding to what Ray said. Yes.
I mean, I feel like it's going to be different. Obviously, the nature of it is going to be different, but I feel like it's hard to pin Trump down, because part of me wants to say that he's just going to feel like, you know what, all I wanted to do was win, which is, I mean, fundamentally, that's the person he is, right? Is it super important to him that he, enact some lasting agenda that's going to impact generations to come? No, that's not what he gives a fuck about. He felt so, bitter about losing the election to Joe Biden that all that fucking mattered to him was winning this election. Whatever comes next, I feel like, he's not going to have, his heart's not really in it. Maybe doesn't even have the next 4 years of a beating heart, but, regardless of that, But it's different because the people he's going to put into these positions, they do care more. I'm not really answering the question at all. But I do want to say, I think a lot of people have made the joke about when Elon Musk bought Twitter, that he bought Twitter thinking that there was a bunch of woke people in these positions doing woke things in the background. And then when he got it, he realized it was just people doing their jobs, and there was a purpose behind the decisions they were making. I feel like Trump can put whatever fucking idiot he wants in charge of whatever it is department they're going to be running. And they're going to, try to pass their anti-woke agenda and be faced with the exact same problem, right? Oh, the reason that we have these things is not because of wokeness or DEI or whatever, word they want to use to, virtue signal to their fellow bigots. But that these are just people performing essential services, and that there are reasonings behind doing things the way we're doing them. And people like Pete Hegseth, I genuinely think doesn't know that. The first Trump administration, there was a lot of pressure for him to appoint people that knew what they were doing, people who were qualified for the job. Of course, those people were evil, qualified in uniquely evil ways, but they had experience in those fields. So they had some understanding going in that, like, we can't just do whatever he tells us to do. But the people he's appointing to these important positions now, they genuinely don't have that knowledge. So I feel like it is going to be like you step in day one on the job, realize, oh, fuck, what am I going to do? I almost wonder if some of them are like sitting in these confirmation hearings and just being like, shit, please vote no. Please vote no. I can't do this job.
They're also thirsty for power, but definitely they will never say it out loud, but depending on who they are, 10 to like 70% of them are like, definitely, fuck, please vote no. Fuck, please vote no. It's gonna be like a lot of an issue for me. Bam, go ahead.
I also, even with Pete Hegseth, because he was saying that women shouldn't be in combat roles or whatever, and then in the confirmation, he already went against that.
Yeah,
and just like how you're saying, like, yeah, there's not some like woke agenda behind that. There's not enough men signing up for the military, so we gotta put the women in there. Like they gotta get shot at too now because not enough dudes they're playing video games, so the women gotta get shot at. Yeah, I think there's a lot of them that probably. I think that regardless of the Pete Hegseth or whoever these people are, Pam Bondi, at the end of the day, they do probably have some level of overachiever in them. And like we said, hopefully this is Trump's last 4 years. And they're going to want to work after that. Like, obviously, what was his name? Pete Hegseth was a bit dodgy about whether he'll go into the defense industry after he's done. But I would imagine like they don't want to just be stained with being the person that blew some shit up because Trump told him to.
right.
Like he's going to be gone, and Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi, these are the least, I'm going to use them as an example. They're fairly young. So like, let me try to at least maybe I can get in the next Republican administration doing something possibly. So I agree. Like, I don't think, like on the surface, it looks like these are the people that are just going to do whatever Trump says. But there is, there's some level of bureaucracy, and it's like, yeah, sometimes it just doesn't work like that.
I feel like that's an important point to make now more than ever, because we are about to be in the near future in a post-Trump world that the Republican Party is going to have to contend with.
Hopefully.
He's going to die. And I mean, he's alluded.
Hopefully.
He's alluded
crown
to the idea that he wouldn't try to run again. Of course, he's fickle, so who fucking knows? But eventually there will be a Republican Party without Donald Trump at the helm of it, and they're going to have to figure out what their identity is. And without someone like Trump, which they don't have, they don't have, all these little Trump wannabes just don't have the juice, What do you think of fucking JD Vance, Dance Vance is going to run?
Wait, we haven't done it in a while. I know there's JD Vance, there's Marco Rubio. We haven't done it in a while, and unfortunately we didn't get to get a lot of mileage out of it. But can we just play the just for old time's sake, the Vance romance intro? Just to remind people of how much Riz our vice president elect has. Because Donald Trump, because he's Donald Trump, is getting like a lot of the attention. And like even more so than Mike Pence, this is the bitch boy. But like, dude, just watch this.
Look, I love my wife so much. I love her because she's who she is. Obviously, she's not a white person.
Now, I would call her up here to come and speak, but then I think I'd have to sleep on the couch tonight. So we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of
Childless cat ladies.
Did you guys see his official vice presidential portrait that was just put out? He was looking real fucking alien in that picture.
Wait. I want to get especially our guest reaction. Folks, this is a really good friend of mine. This is comedian Ron Placone, who has a film out, Left at Wall, that is on Apple TV. This is a good weekend to get Apple TV if you're into Severance, which is like one of their better shows. So hopefully he knows that I'm about to put him on stage. But this is Ron.
What's up? Good evening, everybody. Good to be here. Before you knock JD Vance, have you read his novel?
Oh,
I haven't.
No, I haven't either. I mean, I thought maybe someone had something to say. I've not seen it. I mean, well, you could also see it because I think they made I think it was a movie. Yeah, like they made a movie
with
out
Amy
of it.
Adams. It ruined her career.
Yeah. So
was it back during that time in LA when like Netflix would just like make a movie out of anything?
I think so. I have a buddy who will. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if he's just a glutton for punishment or what it is, but he will watch all that stuff just for the intrigue of it. Just like he watched the Daily Wire movie that they made. Like he watched that. And he
watched one or the racism one.
The trans one. The trans one.
I actually saw that one.
We live in hell.
Good one. That's the good one.
he probably watched both, because he'll just watch that stuff and just, I'm like, all right, dude. I mean, I guess I get why you would want to just sort of see like this is a thing, but I don't know if I could sit through it all. But yeah, he watches all that stuff. So he watched JD Vance's film. And nothing got a positive review from it.
Like Hillbilly Elegy. Yeah, I haven't gotten like a lot of positive reviews from like people who pay attention to politics and like read the book. There are a lot of people who are like normies who, in a lot of similar ways with books du jour, kind of like fall into it and like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. This opens up my world in a way that I should have paid attention to when I was in college, but I was too busy pledging a fraternity or sorority, so I didn't pay attention in class or something like that.
I mean, the bummer is the title itself kind of sounds like it'd be a really cool, like kind of punk Billy band out of the Midwest or something. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh yeah, I would see those guys play, but it's like, no, this is JD Vance's thing. Like, oh, okay.
I didn't even know it was a novel. I thought it was nonfiction.
I love the overarching argument is somehow that his mom's pill addiction was the result of undocumented immigrants and not the fact that she was stealing drugs from her work as a nurse. Somehow in fucking Cincinnati, Ohio, that's the result of undocumented immigrants crossing the border.
All right.
Well, yes. Oh, yes. We originally were talking about this because of JD Vance's presidential portrait, and Donald Trump's portrait is in the thumbnail here. But we have this photo. I will run it on screen so we can do some live, local, late breaking reactions here. Yeah. And these are truly horrifying.
Android. That is not a human.
I can see a xenomorph in that.
I'm glad somebody in the Trump administration invested in the $12 a month AI tools and ran those puppies through it. It looks amazing.
Why does he want to look terrifying? Like, what the hell? Like, you didn't want to grin?
I think that's just his face. That's just what it does.
Nobody wanted to say something funny before?
Say cheese.
God damn.
Say chapter 11.
Does this guy think anybody's actually scared of him in real life? Like, nobody's ever been scared of you in person. Like, you're the president now, you can like do shit, but
Except the
you're
fried chicken
you're not
McDonald's.
intimidating.
The fried
Oh,
chicken
no, ma'am.
McDonald's is probably real
Eight-
scared of Donald Trump.
8-year-old Macaulay Culkin looked a little scared.
Yeah.
Ron Placone, everybody. I would say a man needs no introduction, but feel free to introduce yourself, plug some of the things that you've been doing. I'll take these men's thing off your screen here.
I
But,
think I definitely need an introduction, man, because I got a movie that is available for pre-order now on Apple TV. And it's called Left at Wall. You saw it. You were at our LA screening, which I very much appreciate you being there. That was a really, really fun time. So you've seen the film. And yeah, I mean, it's been working on it for a while. It's my first feature ever. And it is loosely inspired by the GameStop thing that happened in 2021. That's why it's being released now, because it's the anniversary of that coming up, because it happened in January. But it's like told through an anti-capitalist lens. And the kind of quick elevator is of like, imagine if The Big Short and High Fidelity had a baby, and then that baby joined a union. And that's the best way I could describe the film. And but it's a comedy, and you know it's all fun in the end. But if you want to play the trailer, I would love that. The only thing I ask is that I not be on screen while you play the trailer, because it'd be a little weird if I'm just like looking at like my face, looking at my face, watching the trailer. I know a lot of podcasters love to do that. They'll literally watch themselves on another podcast while doing their podcast, but that's not my cup of tea. So I hope you play the trailer, but if you could remove me from the screen so I'm not looking at my because it's just like, oh man, his hairline receded a little more since that got filmed. I don't need people to connect those dots.
Before I do want to ask one question, because I think it's actually relevant to what you just talked about. Is that I think a central piece of Left at Wall is this sort of independent media space, like, you know, people with live streams who are talking about these different things. You talk about like the GameStop thing being like very central to it, or you know, like a version of that. And I don't know. Are there some pieces of that feel like they're pulling from personal experiences, like in this space, especially? Like, you know, there's some familiar faces that I think folks might see within the film as well that I think people will enjoy. And you know, full disclosure, I know you from some work at TYT. We both worked with Jimmy Dore, and you know, went through all the adventures with that. And I'd remember that whenever there were times when Jimmy Dore couldn't help myself, whenever he like, you know, was absent or whatever, and you or Graham Elward were hosting.
Yeah, Progressives was the name of the show.
Aggressive Progressives, yes. The infamous Aggressive Progressives, yeah. Whenever you would fill in and guest host, at least me and some of the other producers we were working with at the time, we would really enjoy those times because, you know, it was like a really big like shake up to the show. It was a really big difference. And, you know, without getting too much into it, I think everyone brings their own sort of like different personalities to the space. And so I definitely think, and you know, and definitely people should check this out on Apple TV when it comes out, and they can pre-save it. But like, I definitely think that a lot of that influence comes through in this film, and I was wondering if you could speak to that before we play the trailer.
Well, yeah. So, to tell you the truth, so it's a narrative film, like basically the guy kind of narrates throughout. And if I'm being brutally honest, the reason I did it that way is because it's just easier to produce something that way. But then later, as time went on, I kind of wanted to have a little bit of a hook and just a little bit like, let's make it kind of weird. So I got this idea, well, what if he's telling the story of everything that happened on a video live stream that he has later? And it's a fake platform that we make up. You know, there's all kinds of little nods. Like the video game store is called Game Bytes instead of GameStop, and the platform is called Red Room instead of Reddit. But the Red Room place that we made up is like this place where you can stream video and you can have little groups. It's like if Reddit and Discord and Twitter all kind of met up into one social. It would actually be a pretty cool social media platform if it actually existed. If this thing goes viral, someone's going to make it. And I hope I get a cut of it. But but yeah, so that was sort of
there's a new Chinese app that might work for you on.
right. Yeah,
They really love an insight into
cooking.
American independent media. Yeah.
We're cooking. I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and that was just kind of like a fun little cinematic idea I had. And obviously I could just use my own setup to do it. And then we got like a fake little banner behind me. The character's name is John Saber. So like his name is there. But it was also a little bit of a nod because at that time, just in my life, I was kind of walking away from a lot of that stuff, at least compared to the way I used to be involved with it. You know, I was no longer affiliated with the Jimmy Dore show. I had quit over there, and Aggressive Progressives was no more. And I kind of wanted to do other things. I was a little burnt out on said space, and that's putting it gently.
How? It's a dream, though.
Oh, don't get me started, Dan. That's the book I'm going to write next. But yeah, no, I just, you know, I had a lot of peaks under the hood, as have you. And, you know, and this is including a lot of entities. This is including, I mean, dude, I was on Stephanie Miller at one point. You know, so it's like Stephanie Miller, TYT.
My mom was a
Jimmy
big
Dore
Stephanie
show.
Miller fan. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so I was there for a hot minute. And you know, I mean, you come to LA and you kind of have, I don't want to say you're an idealist or anything like that, but you kind of have an idea of like what things are and what you might want to do. And then you kind of like see how the sausage is made and you kind of realize like, oh, this is not what I had hoped for. This is not really like a cool space. This is not really a cool way to spend creative energy, at least in my opinion. So, you know, in that film, there was a little bit of a nod where it's like, this was kind of my way of saying, you know, I'm deviating away from this, and playing this character who has a live stream is sort of in some way my goodbye to it. But honestly, it's not like it's 100% goodbye. I mean, I do stuff with Status Quo now. But I kind of keep the world at arm's length, instead of being kind of in it all the time like I was. Now I just kind of keep it at arm's length and do other things. I'm a variety is the spice of life creator. If I do anything, if I'm doing any one thing, I get annoyed. Like if I'm only doing stand up, I get like, you know, antsy. But if I'm not doing enough stand up, I also get antsy. And if I'm not doing any film stuff, I'm like not happy. But if I'm only doing film stuff, then I wish I was doing more stand up. If I was doing nothing but political talk stuff, I would get really freaking burned out and pissed off. But if I'm not doing any of it, I would get FOMO. So really, I don't know. I guess I just can't be happy. I think that's
such as life in Los Angeles, especially recently.
That's basically the big thing. But yeah.
Did y'all have anything? Bam, Ray, have anything to say before I played a little bit of the trailer?
I'm ready to watch the trailer.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it.
Since I didn't get invited, since I did not get the invitation.
Why didn't you invite him, Dan?
I didn't want to impose because, you know, like you're always like, oh, let me invite my friend of a friend thing. I'm sorry. I just love to.
So you mean the text that I sent you that said, "Hey man, I want you to come as a guest, and if you need any plus ones, let me know." That was you saw that as an imposition. You're like, I guess I have to show up by myself. That's clearly what he's saying. It wasn't a wedding, Dan.
Let's play the trailer with Ron Placone's face in the middle of the screen the whole time. Anyways, yeah, I'm excited. Let's watch this.
So you must want to talk about something if you came all the way here. What's up?
I'm going to propose.
No way. Certainly don't think of it as something where you kind of have to outdo what Tiffany and I did. We had such a big wedding because it means nothing to us. You know, her family has money. I have a ton of money.
Don, can we not talk about money right now?
Well, why else are you telling me this?
Because you're my brother.
So I'm a writer. My brother Don is on Wall Street. They basically created a casino out of our economy.
No, we're short selling the stock, which is financial jargon for you probably wouldn't understand.
You know, I bet I would.
It's just you guys are so hard on each other.
What the hell do you mean you don't know how to make an old fashioned? How about this? Let me behind the bar. I'll make the old fashioned myself.
Give me a break, pal. Does this place look like we make old fashions?
I just can't do this anymore. I think we need a break.
What?
So there I was. No girlfriend, no work, no agent. Was this rock bottom? And that's when I got an idea. Dude, Game Bites. We all need to buy shares of it.
I lost a lot because of these idiot hackers.
Well, they're not hackers, but... This isn't about you, Don. This is bigger. This is about sticking up to this corrupt system and actually fighting back for once.
Oh, shut up, John.
Oh, you're muted.
I think you're muted.
Oh no, it's like I said, I'm slow at the draw here, with controlling streamer and everything. But no, there's a lot of really, if you know this like media space, and definitely a lot of the viewers who are watching here do, there's going to be a lot of very, very funny things in here, and a lot of good like Easter eggs sprinkled throughout. Yeah, like so, I guess. You know, it's your first film. I know a lot of people who like make films and do that sort of thing, and it feels like very like a personal experience. Yeah, how do you feel like kind of like getting it out there, honestly?
Dude, it's been a long haul, and it's my first feature. You know, I started getting into just production, but my own production. I mean, I'd been on other people's film sets, whatever. But as far as my own stuff, I started kind of getting into that in 2022. I made a pilot called Loner that we just kind of put on the web and just kind of wanted to see what would happen. And it was okay. I mean, it was like my first thing that I made. And then I did a vertical series, which is basically a fancy way of saying vertically on a phone. But I did a vertical series called Frank Azzurri that premiered at a festival in Rome. And then Status Quo ended up publishing the series. We did like 7 episodes. And then this was my first feature. So this was by far the biggest lift out of those 3 things. And it was just a lot. I mean, you know, because we started the whole process in 2021. I mean, right after the GameStop thing happened, I kind of got the idea for like the story that was, again, not based on it, but like inspired by it. And so I wrote it. Then I wrote a trailer. I financed the trailer myself. We were going to use the trailer to kind of finance the rest of the film, but then it's like things were still off and on with the pandemic. Things were still off and on, just, you know, with the world, really. And so, you know, we had what it took to make it, then we didn't, et cetera, et cetera. So it took a long time to just get everything in line as far as casting, as far as funding, as far as building a team, a lot of starting and stopping. And, you know, there's a lot of comics in this movie, and, you know, 2 in particular are 2 of the most heavily touring comics in LA. I mean, Gareth Reynolds of The Dollop is in this movie, and Eddie Pepito's in this movie. Those guys tour more than almost anybody, which is great. I mean, I'm definitely not knocking it, but, you know, it's not easy when you gotta coordinate.
No jealousy,
everybody.
no envy or anything.
Yeah, right. No, it's awesome. I mean, I wish I was, you know, doing as many weeks as they are, but like, you know, it's really hard to coordinate schedules when you got that to contend with. So, I mean, it definitely took a lot of freaking time when all is said and done. And then I had no idea what it really meant to get a movie to distribution, what any of that meant. I had no idea, you know, if anyone would want to distribute it. You know, I just didn't really know any of those things, so I didn't even know what to expect. So I was really learning as I went. And it's a freaking ride, but it's a lot of fun. And you know, I'm already working on the next thing. So I guess it's one of those things, like you get bit by the bug. and I'm already working on the next thing, which is going to launch not just as a feature film, but also as a stage play. So Dan, I'll let you know about the guest list. Make sure you don't bring anybody. I'll say I'll be like invite people, Dan. I got spots for you, buddy. And you'll be like, all right, I don't want to impose. I don't want to, you know what? I don't even think I should go. I'll just send you a text. Good luck, buddy. I don't want to impose by being in the seat.
Put me in here. Just give me a prompting.
How does Dan audition for this next film?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's already casted. But if I'm ever...
no. Sorry, Dan.
Even the live version in Australia and New Zealand.
It's all the same cast, like the same cast, like the stage play. It's just all, and I'm in it too, because it really, I actually didn't want to play the main character and left it wall, but for the budget, it really saved if I could not pay one of the lead actors. And I'm like, well, who could I justify not paying? I know, myself. So I decided to play him. But yeah, I would have loved to have casted somebody else to play John, but it just wasn't, in the budget. So, No,
it's a really funny film. It's a really moving film. It definitely has a lot of I don't think a lot of media, quote unquote fictional media really touches on this space in a really, smart way. A lot of it's very a Saturday Night Live writers version of what Twitch streaming looks like. It's very generic. It doesn't really feel very genuine. And this really feels like it has that there. So it's really good. Yeah, folks, check that out. It's on Apple TV. It's called Left at Wall. Really great watch. And
yeah, and can I just let people know it is officially out on January 24th. You can pre-order it on Apple TV now. If you can, please pre-order it, because the more pre-orders we get, the better listing we'll get once it's an official new release. So it would be amazing if we made the front page. So if you're an Apple TV user, please, please, please give us a pre-order. But if you're not an Apple TV user, that's okay, because guess what? On the 24th, it's going to be distributed to a bunch of places. It's going to be on YouTube Movies. It's going to be on Google Play. It's going to be on Apple TV. It's going to be on Xbox. It's going to be on a lot of the cable on-demand services. So if you follow me on social media,
Ron's selling out. Let's go. No, I'm kidding.
Dude, I mean, that's just how it works, man. That's just how distribution works.
With you, yeah.
And I think it's gonna be. Now, this was something that's in their hands, man. I have nothing to do with this, but it's gonna be available for DVD. Which,
wow.
I mean, I don't. They were like, it's going to be available for DVD, and I was like, do people still buy that? And they go, yes. I was like, okay. So yeah,
it's like vinyl.
It's funny. I was talking. Since I told people that, there were actually people who were excited about it, and some people actually wanted to pre-order the DVD. So I was like, is there a pre-order? They're like, the only pre-order right now is Apple TV, but as soon as the DVD link is ready, we'll of course put it out. But yeah, I didn't realize that people still did that, but I guess it totally makes sense because I still collect vinyl. So I don't know why that's surprising to me. But yeah,
Disney's, if Disney buys Apple TV and they censor parts of your movie, people will be like, "Oh, I have the DVD. I have the original cut." So
that's
it's going to be one of those things. Physical.
Also, good call. Look it out. You know what I would really think was badass. I was talking about this yesterday. I wish there would be a Laserdisc version of that. I would love to see a Laserdisc copy of my movie, and it would for sure.
You want Betamax?
I dated a girl once who was really into Laserdiscs. She had this collection that basically took up her entire room, and she had a little one of those screen projectors, and she would just it's a cool freaking way to watch a movie. I think it's really badass. There are not dragons in the movie. That was also not in the budget. But there is a beach. And there are a lot of really, really cool comedians. And also, if there's any hip hop fans, Sage Francis makes a cameo. So Sage Francis, Makeshift Patriot, was one of his big ones. He makes a cameo in the movie. And somebody made a comment about the soundtrack, which I actually really, really appreciate that, because there were two bands that really were dominant in the soundtrack. Well, a couple. There was a band called the Heavenly States and a band called Fire Tiger. And then this artist named Who I See and a couple others. And yeah, all the music was basically provided to me. Like they said, we would like it if you used our music in your film. I compensated everybody, but it was really cool that they just said, you are allowed to use this if you want to. And so I was able to just sort of sound design it with this amazing music, that they, basically gave me at a friend's rate, and that was really freaking cool. So shout out to them and their support of the film. And then the song in the credits, I actually helped write the lyrics for a while ago. It wasn't a recent thing, but it's like, because I helped with the lyrics, I wanted that to be the song in the credits. So the music is a special thing to me as well.
Oh yeah, you're mentioning the beaches, you're mentioning a lot of the music. I want to say you're wearing a shirt at least that has Chase Petra on it.
I'm wearing it tonight because you noticed that. I'm wearing it tonight because you noticed that.
No, wait, move your mic a little bit so folks can see.
Here, let me just stand up because I think it's more
yeah,
there. It's a very cool Long Beach band. I happened to which I actually thought about that, and I'm like, I wonder if anybody would ever find that objectionable. I should have mentioned it to them, hey, I'm gonna wear, is it okay if I wear your t-shirt in my movie? But I just thought, I'm I'm gonna support this local band in my movie, because there's all kinds of fun little nods to the South Bay.
But before this gets too inside baseball, on the other sister podcast to this Audio Face that I do with my friend Sean, we did a series that was kind of a genius artists break down their Legos, and one of the artists who came on was Chase Petra, because Peter, who works on the back end of Syndicate 23, and the lead singer of Chase Petra and I went to high school together, and so it was actually really that connection really worked, and that was actually one of our most popular videos in general. I think it's just kind of that, LA South Bay kind of connection, but coming to that, and because you're a comedian on, and I wanted to play part of this clip. I think whenever you have, I'm trying to figure out, every year on Power Report I kind of have these themes of okay, what is going to be the recurring theme throughout the year. And I think now that the right wing has a lot of power, what I've noticed, especially through, a little bit. What I've noticed, especially through the LA fires that have happened recently, three of us on this panel, Ray, are LA local, and the fires have been some sort of impact to people we know, at least. I think this experience is really seen where, Democrats, Republicans, the same ones who are Gavin Newsom and whatever, are looking at California Republicans at Mar-a-Lago, saying that well, maybe Marxist California doesn't deserve fire aid. And they're like, wait a minute, what the fuck? I think you're going to see, and maybe this is me being a little bit optimistic, but in the culture, it's been very easy for the past, 10 years or so for comics to, not all comics, but I think a lot of comics, to lazily lean on this cancel culture. They're trying to censor me. Oh, I'm being right-wing reactionary, and that just counts as comedy. And it's a very phone it in. It goes back to our conversation of back when Netflix was just giving everyone a movie or a comedy special. But I feel one of the people who was really on the catalyst of kind of changing that culturally, and I think he's just going to continue more and more kind of growing on this, is Bill Burr. And I saw him on Kimmel, I believe, this week. And, he was talking about the fires. He's an LA native. And he has this way of he goes in the same circles of your Joe Rogans, your Bill Maher's, and will just tear them, dress them down to their face in a way that they enjoy, but also hits at this sort of you know, the results, the audience that this like weird comedy scene has created, unfortunately. And I want to play some of, you know, Bill Burr's like excellent sort of like analysis of the LA wildfires, because, you know, I've had a lot of emotions over the past week. I talked about how I had to evacuate some of my cousins from Altadena, and thankfully they're like home and their block is safe and everything, but like that was just like a time. But Bill Burr's like kind of reaction to this, especially like a lot of the counter reactions that we've seen and other analysis, because this has been a horribly covered event, you're really starting to see the limits to what this like right-wing movement is doing, especially when people on the ground are living these horrific events that are, you know, you can tie to decisions that conservatives and right-wingers have made. So I really want to play this clip so we can, you know, laugh and enjoy this, because I think Bill Burr is doing a great job here. Hang on.
Evacuate your home.
Yes, like most people I had to. I got lucky, you know, the winds moved, but you know, the fire was coming and all that stuff. So I feel lucky.
Are you guys back in?
And I think everybody did a great job.
Yeah.
Unlike the internet, you know?
Yeah, right. I know. It's right.
Oh my God. All of these fire experts. Why didn't you just fly a helicopter into the ocean? And then just, I don't know, because there was 100 knot winds. You want to do that? You want to do that at night, you lunatic?
How are you?
This was definitely mismanaged.
That's a big word we're hearing.
Mismanaged, like some idiot on the internet knows how to manage the worst fire in LA, sitting there in his underwear. You know what? Looking at the footage on the internet, I have determined that this here was mismanaged.
You know about helicopters because I remember, and it's interesting now thinking about it, because you said that.
About it. I know about the one that I fly. Other than that, I don't know anything about it. You're on the internet, you know everything.
I hope you know about it, because you said that you got your pilot's license in case like all hell broke loose in LA, you could get out of LA. And at any moment, did you think, I'm going to make a run for that helicopter?
Well, the error in my thought was I didn't realize how expensive helicopters were. So all I have is a 2-seater, and I didn't want to have to make Sophie's choice with my family. So, you know, we all piled into the SUV like everybody else. But no, man, these guys were out there clearing the trees, getting the wires back up and everything. You know, I mean, it was like the perfect, awful thing that could have happened, and it did. And I love how all the chatter out there is about bands of illegal immigrants and homeless people lighting fires. They light fires every day. They're living outside, cold. This theory that some homeless guy without a car went from Altadena all the way to the Pacific Palisades, and then we have a hang glider. You know, and they're talking about looting, but CNN and Fox News are not going to bring up the insurance companies that are just going to keep everybody's premiums and still give themselves a bonus. Yeah. Yes. Free Luigi. I love how they acted surprised. Why did that happen? I have no idea. He wrote on the bullets why it happened.
Oh, we're back to Luigi. Okay, yeah.
I never left Luigi.
How is Bill Burr, the father, the husband, in an emergency situation?
I don't know. I'm all right. Like when big stuff happens, I get ridiculously calm. My Achilles heel is little things. Huh. So like if the house was going to be on fire, I would just be like, well, you know, kind of be cool to not own anything. Like I'll just go into that mode. An opportunity to build a dream house with the money I no longer have. I would just think like that. But like little things I flip out at. Like, you know, if I go to make toast and then all of a sudden it burns, I'm like, who the is changing the settings? And what I realized, I just realized this backstage is what it is I learned as a kid, when big things are happening, keep your mouth shut or the big thing comes at you. And then I flip out over the little things because I'm emoting about that in this. So wow. I don't make any sense to anybody in my house. They're like, Dad, it's toast. What is the big deal? It's like, well, I would tell you what the big deal was, but it's too sad. So we'll just keep it on the toast.
I heard you had to evacuate your.
Okay, yeah. So there's a lot there. I like near the end how he, you know, contextualizes the sort of emotion of like, and you know, I was a big fan of his Netflix show F is for Family, which is like a lot about this like angry father figure in the 70s who like his, you know, feelings are, you know, like misdirected towards like other different things in his life. But when he goes, he's done this really well towards like Bill Maher's face, towards Joe Rogan's face, of how yeah, just because you're in your underwear on the toilet scrolling on Instagram doesn't make you a fucking pro, doesn't make you a fucking expert. Just because you paid for a blue check mark doesn't make you a journalist, right? Like, and there's a lot of, one of the more frustrating things was you saw, you know, like Black folks, for example, who are helping elders in Altadena evacuate, and you saw social media pages who were taking videos of that and saying that, look at these looters who are taking stuff out of like people's homes. And it's just like, we'll never be free. But I think a lot of people are kind of seeing how, you know, this is ridiculous. I mean, you saw like how I like how, again, Burr's able to use comedy and also like bring it to an applause point, kind of make a good point about you know, like who the real robber barons are, like these insurance companies. These California passed like an anti-price gouging law for you know, the wildfires, because now there are fucking entire neighborhoods of the city gone. In a normal supply and demand situation, and you know, rents are already high in Los Angeles, one of the most expensive places in the country and in the world. There's going to be less housing supply, and so rent's going to go up. I'm talking like houses going from $8,000 a month, which is already ridiculous, to like $15,000-$16,000 a month, to $17,000 a month in a day. And it's just like, yes, you want someone to just be like Free Luigi like that. So it was really interesting. I just like enjoyed that. In these moments, especially as an LA resident, I wanted to just like see people be kind of serious about what's going on. And it was pleasant to definitely see that. Bam, or other people are muted. But anyone, if anyone has any like thoughts about like anyone about that,
I'm over here telling people they're muted and I'm muted.
No, yeah. Well, Ron, like I don't know, like as someone who does comedy, I hate to be like sort of like navel gazing about it, but like, do you think that we're starting to reach this point? You know, I think especially like as a comedian, you have to like really engage with an audience. If an audience is like not vibing with you, they're not gonna laugh at the joke. And I think like people laugh at jokes because they're true and they're funny, especially when you're doing political comedy. But like, do you think, especially because we're going to be able to put stickers on gas pumps with Donald Trump's face on it that says "I did that" for the next 4 years? Do you think like we're going to have like a more like ripe environment for this sort of like return, or not necessarily return, but like, you know, a reverse pendulum swing to this like right-wing sort of stale comedy that we've been seeing a lot of for the past couple of years? I think like Bill Burr did a really good job of there.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, there's been like mini pendulum swings in as long as I've been doing this. Like there was a period of time where the sort of absurdist, like I'm a time traveling pirate, like that was the big thing that everybody was doing, and that was really cool and fun, and then that got kind of cringe. And then there was the what was the other thing? Then there was like the just sort of like, yeah, I'm just a piece of shit and I don't take care of my health and I look like I'm 75, but I'm 20. Like that was the cool thing for a while. And then there was, and now there's like this sort of weird, you know, crypto right-wing thing that's going on because there's just a huge freaking audience for it. So like a lot of comics are kind of pandering to that, and but not all of them are, and the ones that aren't.
So really quickly, but like, why do you think there's that big audience?
The same reason why there's that big audience for it in the political space. I mean, it's not much different than, you know, so many YouTube personalities just going to the right. I mean, there's just a ton. The right in general has more money, and they invest in that type of stuff more. So it's just there's just a bigger, I would say, just a bigger audience for it. So the same happens in comedy. I mean, people make it out like, oh man, if you're a conservative in Hollywood, that's so difficult. No, if you're a lefty in Hollywood, that's freaking difficult. If you're a conservative in Hollywood, you got your freaking tribes. Like there's all kinds of studios that like will fund what you're trying to do. If you're an actual lefty in Hollywood, well then you're kind of on an island, because, you know, a lot of Hollywood, it's either just straight up right wing or just kind of, you know, DNC liberal. So if you're to the left of any of that, you know, it's not, that's the smallest group politically by far. So yeah, I mean, I think that's why. And there's just like such a late. I mean, a lot of these guys, they started off doing something else. They just took this like right wing turn, and all of a sudden they're going viral and all this other stuff. And it's just, so they just roll with it. And, you know, and comedy clubs don't care if you're selling tickets. Like they don't care.
Right.
They would, I mean, most of them would book a Nazi if that Nazi put butts in the seats. They don't care. So yeah, I mean, that's entertainment in general, I think. So yeah, I mean, for me, I was a lefty before I ever did comedy. So I don't really like this is just part of who I am. It's not gonna like I'm just sort of, I'm this guy. I am this guy. I like, I'm a lefty. I love cats and punk rock music, and all that kind of stuff comes through in everything I do. And that's just the way it is. I don't have the option of changing. It's just kind of how it is, which, by the way, since we got on the topic organic, I will say my cat Lucy makes a cameo in the movie, and she is in the credits.
Ooh.
No, that's great. I know during the pandemic, everyone did those sort of like pandemic sort of shows. You had like Get Your News On with Ron, and you even had like little comics as well. I think someone was doing for you that your cat was starring in. So that was really
Yeah, Lucy and Ron. Yeah, we've been doing that for a long time. We took a break because we're gonna try to do like a bigger project. Like we're gonna try to do a book. So yeah.
So you've got the book, you've got the movie, you've got the classic Hollywood stuff.
Yeah, you know, like you do. I mean, hey, as long as I'm paying the price to live here, might as well, you know, play the game.
Yeah, right. So like I wanted to, we were kind of talking about, you know, some of these issues and tacking to the right and, you know, the state of things. I wanted to kind of get to some of the news of the week that we usually do here. And this is well within, you know, stuff that's been happening and the people in the leftist space have been talking about. It's frankly the biggest news of the week is that there have been announcements, rumblings of a ceasefire deal, and unlike the past 5 times over the past since October 7th, 2023 that folks have talked about this one seems to be a little bit closer. Now, even though after it was announced and people were celebrating, literally as those celebrations were happening, Israeli bombs were dropping. But as we enter the complete twilight of the Joe Biden administration and Antony Blinken is giving his last Pentagon press conference, I think there were a couple of journalists who did some pretty bold things here. I'll start with Max Blumenthal, who, you know, broken clocks theory, but this was pretty bold of what he did. So I was going to play this here.
Why did you sacrifice the rules-based order on the mantle of your commitment to Zionism? Why did you allow my friends to be massacred? Why did you allow my friends' homes in Gaza to be destroyed when we had a deal in May? You helped destroy our religion, Judaism, by associating it with fascism. You waved the white flag before Netanyahu. You waved the white flag before Israeli fascism. Your father-in-law was an Israel lobbyist. Your grandfather was an Israel lobbyist. Are you compromised by Israel? Why did you allow the Holocaust of our time to happen? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? You too, Matt. You smirk through the whole thing every day. Smirk through a genocide.
You smirk through a genocide is like a real killer. But Sam Husseini also was pulled away. This was Ryan Grimm's angle. Was pulled away from his chair while also asking questions of Anthony Blinken that were like, very valid, that were continuations of kind of what like Max Bloom was saying about how there are all of these instances where ceasefire deals could happen. I think, just what's happened in the past couple of hours and days shows how the United States does and doesn't have some, power over what Netanyahu does. At the end of the day, like I said, Israeli bombs are still dropping. But, we talk so much about suppression and lack of democracy in other countries. I think this clip starts to speak for itself.
I carry in my pocket the names of those who have been arbitrarily detained and unfairly held hostage, unjustly held hostage, and bringing them home, returning them to their families, returning to their loved ones. Finally,
get your hands off me. 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 Answer a damn question. Do you know about the Hannibal Directive? Do you know about Israel's nuclear weapons? Everybody from the ICJ. I was sitting here quietly, and now I'm being manhandled by 2 or 3 people. You pontificate about a free press. You pontificate about a free press. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. I'm asking questions after being told by Matt Miller that he will not answer my questions until I'm asking questions.
Sir, respect the
Wasn't
process.
the point of the May 31st statement to block the ICJ orders? You blocked the ICJ orders. Respect the process. Respect the process. While everybody from Amnesty International. From Amnesty International to the ICJ saying that Israel's doing genocide and extermination. You're telling me to respect the process. Criminal, why aren't you in the Hague? Why aren't you in the Hague? Why aren't you in the Hague?
Finally.
I like how he says finally. You just want like the Seinfeld bass line to play after that.
They're
But
drones, man. Like they're just drones. They keep going. I mean, yeah, and shout out to him and shout out to Max Blumenthal for doing what they did there. I mean, I think that's freaking awesome, and it's been.
Bam's a hater.
No, because honestly, I'll shout out the other guy, but Max knows he's gonna be all right, dude. Like Max knows nothing's gonna happen to him. He'll be fine.
Sam was released later. Max wasn't manhandled, of course, but yeah, Sam, they were both released later. It's all good. But yeah, no, I like I said, there have been many times over the 10 plus years I've done this, which makes me want to drink. And I think it's impossible for like any person to be 100% aligned with everything you agree with over that entire time. And I think that's certainly the case with Max Blumenthal for me for a lot of things. But on Israel and Gaza, like in this, obvious moment of our times, this is hot off the moment where we're getting a poll from YouGov, I believe, that was like people who chose to not vote in this election. The number one reason they cite is the Biden-Harris administration's, illicit and tacit support for sending bombs, sending weapons, like this journalist was saying, going over like the Leahy law, all these other different principles we're supposed to have to prevent these things from happening. It just doesn't matter for the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris administration. And so when Kamala Harris was running and didn't waver from any of that positioning, she left herself very vulnerable. And, it's one poll, 29% of people, I think was the number, said that like it was their top issue. And that was like the number one thing that was mentioned there. I think if that didn't happen, there could be another top number one issue. Like people were talking about inflation and gas prices and the usual economics that people say. But this is something where, Bam, we've talked about this. This is a little bit different from the usual moments where Israel and Hamas will get into some sort of like spat for a couple of months. And, the usual misuse and asymmetric warfare will happen. This is something where the entire world is watching. The ICJ, as, non-working as they are, is like paying attention, actually like putting pen to paper on a lot of this stuff. I think support for Israel is going down, especially in America, and they're like one of the bigger holdouts. And, you know, here's the question I'm asking, and this is like, you know, the meme that Bam you've had for a while, and the Chiron I have at the bottom here. Is this going to be one of those things like Reagan freeing the hostages that like propels Trump into a good second term? Because this is America. No one's going to know. People were Googling on the day of the election that they didn't know that Joe Biden had dropped out of the election, right? People are going to think that Trump freed Palestine, Bam. You lost.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they're going to think. I mean, who knows what people are going to think? You know, Trump gets like a level of leeway that like nobody else does.
Leroy?
But yeah, I mean, even with this deal, there, you know, and I guess it doesn't go into effect officially until like Sunday or Monday or something like that. I don't know. Or I guess
same day of the TikTok ban.
The Knesset hasn't actually voted on it all the way yet, but that was a few hours ago. I don't know what's happened since then. But yeah, if they, you know, release the hostages, I guess they're not going to release the men yet. But yeah, I mean, really, he freed the hostages. I don't think he's like, he didn't do anything for Palestine, really.
Right.
I don't know how somebody could think that, but you know, it's Trump. Trump's already taking credit for the ceasefire deal now. So like, whatever happens,
Trump claims credit for Keynesian economics, dude. So
right. So he'll take credit for it, but I don't think he's gonna. What he'll probably say is like, you know, I'm the reason why people are not dying, but he's never gonna say anything that like sounds like he's in favor of like Palestinian civilians, like at all. Like, I don't think he's ever gonna really acknowledge Palestinian civilians ever.
Right. I mean, and like, you know, even if this deal is fully signed, the bombs stop, great, but Gaza looks different from space because of the devastation.
I'm sorry to laugh.
People have nowhere to return to. I mean, the destruction is just unimaginable, and the human rights crisis has not ceased just because, you know, maybe the bombs have stopped being dropped. I mean, there's still a massive lack of resources in the region. And I mean, ultimately, the proposal didn't establish a Palestinian state. It didn't change the relationship, the oppressive relationship that Israel has over Palestine. So, and you know, obviously Donald Trump is not going to spearhead any movement to, you know, not even for a two-state solution, maybe a one-state solution where the one state is Israel, you know, but
and even because Netanyahu is like explicitly against a two-state solution from day one, even while you know, there's like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are saying two-state solution. Macron, like everybody is saying there should be a two-state solution, and Netanyahu seems like the one holdout on that. I don't really know what Trump's idea is, but Netanyahu's like the only holdout so far. And I think really looking forward, I wonder what's going to happen because back in 2005, 6 or whenever, the Palestinian Authority and Hamas like fought a civil war in Gaza to like who's going to rule it. And Hamas won for all intents and purposes. Who's going to like govern this, or, you know, at least like be in charge of the rebuild, or, you know, make sure stuff is in order. Who's going to do that? Like, is there going to be some United Nations force? They're bringing cholera and shit.
Right.
Is there going to be like, or maybe some, you know, local, like regional kind of force there to like make sure everything goes well? I don't know, but I think that although I feel like there's honestly like 18 Hamas fighters left, if they do anything, like if one person shoots a freaking BB gun, then the IDF's bombing a building. So I just wonder
one building?
Right.
But I did hear from Hamas, the same organization that makes up death numbers. I'm being sarcastic, but I heard that they had basically replenished all of the forces that they had lost since October 7th.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Honestly, I don't think Hamas has that many forces. I do think it's interesting though that you did see people celebrating the ceasefire in Gaza. So I do think that they wanted this to happen a long time ago, and I do put a level of blame on Hamas for that, because although you don't hear this all the time, although I've been saying this since October 10th or whenever we recorded 2023, Hamas did that attack to try to sever the building relationship between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Now, it didn't work because Saudi Arabia did not give a damn for 1 second what was happening in Gaza. They're waiting right there to be buddies with Israel whenever it's doesn't look so bad. So Hamas made they really just they bet the farm, and really I do believe they sacrificed a whole lot of Palestinian civilians for a political move, and it really backfired really bad. I don't think that they understood that this is me, I guess this is speculation, but whatever. I don't think they understood how many snitches they had in their organization to get Hania killed in Iran, and get Sinwar killed in that building. And then in Hezbollah had some high level snitches too, to do the pager bombings, which is crazy. And to get Nasrallah killed, who's been there since forever. So I think they just made a really bad political decision, and it cost so many people their lives. And they're celebrating a ceasefire that they are you already know Israel's not going to abide by it. But I think that the Palestinian people, these people in Gaza, have been wanting this shit over for a long time, and I feel this is I'm giving big centrist Bam here. Apologies. But I do feel to some extent Hamas was holding those people hostage, and I don't think it's right. And I'll say this too, as somebody who knows a lot about the region, Hamas is never gonna free Palestine. Never.
But Trump will. Okay.
But Donald?
Ron, any last thoughts on this?
Well, obviously, I hope for a ceasefire because it needs to happen. I think what the Israeli government has done is beyond repulsive, and it's so disgusting that the United States has enabled it. It's interesting seeing both Donald Trump and Joe Biden taking credit for the ceasefire deal, even though neither one of them supported. Donald Trump, when he was asked about the whole issue, he said, "Oh, let's have Israel finish the job." What does that mean? Yeah, he wanted to just let them obliterate Gaza. So, I think that is a sign of how the tide is turning as far as public opinion goes, and people are very tired of this, and they're seeing it for what it is, and they're calling it out. And I think, you mentioned, the campaign and stuff. I don't know if Kamala Harris would have won had she distanced herself further from Joe Biden on that issue.
I agree.
But I think it would have helped. Especially in a state like Michigan, right. I think it would have helped an awful lot. Agree. Look at how Rashida Tlaib did in Michigan, and then Kamala Harris lost that. All she had to do was just distance herself a little bit from Joe Biden, and then the other option would have been Donald Trump saying, "Israel, go finish the job." It definitely would have helped her a lot. Would she have won? I don't know, but she couldn't even pretend. Right. Really, let's say she couldn't even pretend.
But can I say this too? I although I feel like a broken record, we've been talking about this for so long, and I feel like I've been saying the same stuff, and Ray's giving me that look. No, I'm joking. I when I'm thinking about what happened since October 7th, like what Israel did, which is heinous. No American president.
This is the point where Bam should disclose where he has stock in Lockheed Martin and Raytheon.
Yeah, we just need to. No, I'm joking. I like no American president's going to do anything different in that situation. Like this is American policy from day one. Trump's not going to do anything different. Biden, Obama, Bush, none of these people are going to quote unquote turn their back on Israel. It's not going to happen. Just like, and I feel ridiculous because I've said this a million times already. Just like America sends weapons to Saudi Arabia, like funds the Egyptian military. You know what I mean? Like,
we're a war economy. Like the United States
are like
is a war
facts
economy.
on the ground. Like America's gonna like these 3 countries in the Middle East are gonna get. You can include Qatar, Bahrain. They have American bases. Like they're gonna get. They're American allies, and like they haven't done anything bad enough to stop being an American ally because because America is that shitty. Like that's how bad America is all the time. So I don't know. There was a part of me that's like, I don't know. Whatever. I'll stop. Somebody else.
I want to say just, on the idea of both Biden and Trump taking credit for the ceasefire deal. Obviously, the Netanyahu camp has been leaking to the press that it's Trump and his coordinated efforts to bring this ceasefire together that really swayed my
art of the deal.
But I mean, my question is, we talked about the changing public opinion re-Israel, the reputation I think that Netanyahu, of course, has had for those people in America paying attention to what's going on. The bad reputation he has, but now the growing negative reputation, the public perception of Netanyahu. Does it help Trump for Netanyahu to be like, yeah, that's my fucking boy. Yeah, that's the guy that brought this together. He's the one that that really fucking did this for me, right? He's the one I was listening to. Like, does that? I mean, of course, with the American evangelical right who thinks that that Jesus wants all of the Jews to be in Israel so that he can smite them down. That's great for them, whatever. But like for the average person who has become somewhat educated on Israel, Palestine, and at least can see Netanyahu and know who he is when he's on TV, and maybe has a negative perception of him. I don't think that Netanyahu talking up Trump is necessarily a good thing for him.
Trump doesn't get that same kind of criticism, dude. Like he can do whatever. Like it doesn't matter. Honestly, like that. The war could continue for the rest of Trump's presidency, and people are going to be blaming Biden for it. Like that's just how it goes, dude. Like he can do whatever he wants, and it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Now, unless some gas prices go up,
right? Well, even that,
he'll blame Democrats. He'll blame
China.
Yeah, right. He'll do something, and honestly, it'll be fine. Like. For whatever reason, this really wealthy white rapist can just do whatever, and like nobody really cares that much. The same people. I think the same people, like the kind of people that are not so tuned in politically, that had a lot to say about Kamala and a lot to say about Biden, will not have that same energy for Trump, and that's just unfortunately how it goes.
Oh no, they're not going to, because Trump's going to lower taxes for billionaires, and there's going to be a lot of people making $45K a year who goes, Trump lowered my taxes.
Exactly.
So yeah, we're and we're talking a lot about what is the influence that you're going to be seeing over the next couple of years from the administration, and Elon Musk, I don't think is long for he's going to get fired from Donald Trump's apprentice situation pretty soon.
I hope so. I don't know if I share your optimism there.
I know we had this news this week that Elon Musk is going to be getting an office in the White House, but like it's it's an unstoppable object, immovable force kind of situation.
Unstoppable autist is what I thought you were about to say.
Wow.
I was going to say unstoppable office. I was like, what?
No, but by that I mean Elon Musk has an office at Tesla, technically. And that's not going great. Elon Musk has an office at SpaceX, and I just saw like one of their rocket tests just shatter in the atmosphere, right? Like the same week that Jeff Bezos successfully launched a rocket. So he's got competition there. Elon Musk, and I get this, right? A lot of us are like this. You have hobbies, and once you get sick of one hobby, you do the old Andy from Toy Story, I don't want to play with you anymore. And then you go on to the next hobby. Unfortunately, this is just the richest man in the world. And his new hobby is international fascism. And so he's really interested in...
I don't think it's a new hobby. I will. Yeah, I don't think that's
fair. No,
that's
totally fair. That's totally fair. That's totally fair.
Do you know about his grandfather? The grandfather who he celebrates. You know what that guy was into?
Listen, it is only right that every 100 years in America that we have someone who makes very popular cars who also kind of likes Hitler. It's just like we had Henry Ford, now we have Elon Musk with Tesla. Like it is just the way America works. That's the way we keep the lights on here.
And Kanye's next.
If Kanye makes a car, I'm definitely gonna buy it.
It's happening. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna look like his shoes. But I was kind of trying to segue a little bit to Mark Zuckerberg, because I think
oh, God,
the Mark Zuckerberg stuff, but also the TikTok ban, I think is all hand in hand, because with the popularity of Xiaohongshu, it's more of a Pinterest Instagram app than it is a TikTok competitor, to be fair.
Are you on it?
I'm not, because
I'm not on it yet. Are y'all on it?
I'm on it.
I just don't want another thing.
Thank you, Ron. That's what I was saying.
I'm holding out the TikTok just sticks around. I don't want to get on a new thing. I'm on.
Ray is Gen Z. Ray's got to get it.
I love it. I have no idea what anyone is saying. I can't read most of the comments on the app, which is good, I think, for my mental health.
I wish I had that with Twitter, actually.
Right.
Is there a setting I can...
I had someone on Twitter zoom in on my nose ring and call it a DEI nose ring. So yeah, if I could just have all of that written to me in Mandarin so that I can understand it, that would be a vastly preferable user experience on Twitter.
Isn't it incredible how they always do that? Everything is just woke, or they use it as like a negative thing, and it doesn't even make sense. Right. I mean, it's funny. I actually forgot to mention this. I tweeted the Bill Burr clip that we watched, actually, because I enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very funny. I agreed with 90% of what he said and thought it was hilarious. So I tweeted it, and somebody said something like, oh yeah, he's just going woke now, or something like that. I'm like, dude, he said free Luigi on a corporate show. He said, and you're complaining about that? What's
Jimmy
wrong?
Kimmel was sweating. He was like,
yeah.
let's talk about your family. Let's talk about the fire. And Bill Burr was like, the proletariat shall lose nothing but his chains.
Yeah. Yeah. And people were like, I liked it better when he was more. I'm like, are you serious, dude?
Again, I've been watching F is for Family the whole time, and definitely Bill Burr's always been a little bit edgy and rough around the edges, right? And, and I generally cannot defend any public figure for whatever different thing, but I'm just I admire the fact that he can be. There's always this sort of idea or this theory of power of, oh, if you work with inside the system, then you can start to shake things up. I think that's mostly a fucking fantasy, but Bill Burr is kind of that reality of he keeps getting invited to Joe Rogan and Bill Maher and all these different shows. And basically all that happens is these people get humiliated.
Has he been on Bill Maher again since he really just
Club Random?
Bill Maher?
I mean, Bill Maher is enough of a little bitch to not invite him on. But the thing with Bill Maher and Joe Rogan is the fact that they like the fact that that is one of those moments where their show gets attention and it gets views and it gets an audience, right? And so they're what do you call from The Sopranos? They're whoas right? The whoas. They want the attention most of all, and so as long as they can get that, that is what they're craving. And like, again,
Well, I think in the case of Rogan and Burr, it's like, yeah, they don't agree on everything, but they're both comics who came up at the same time, who have both done very, very well. So I think in that case, it's still just kind of like two comics shooting the shit like comics do. But I think in the case of like Bill Maher, it's almost like he wants to entertain this facade that he's at the level of a Bill Burr, or Bill Burr is like a peer to him, which is just straight up not true. Bill Maher came up at a time where they were handing out TV shows like it was candy, and he was able to be.
And Joe Rogan didn't with news radio?
Not comparatively speaking, no.
I understand you, yes.
I mean, Bill Maher was around at a point where it was basically like, if you could be tolerable on stage for 25 minutes, you could make a living, and a pretty good one. And he had reasonable insights into politics, so he got like all these opportunities. And then, I mean, but really, like Bill Burr just destroyed him. I mean, just the ultimate. If someone said, sum up Bill Maher in one sentence, I would just play the recording of Bill Burr going, Bill, you're not smart. You just know about obscure shit and repeat it, or whatever he did. I'm paraphrasing, but that was Bill Maher in a nutshell. And he just like, I mean, it was beautiful. It was freaking beautiful. And seeing Bill Maher squirm and try to be funny.
You think is that important in that button-up shirt?
Dude, it was awesome. And Bill Maher could have like been self-deprecating and at least been funny about it, but he has no freaking chops, so he couldn't do that. Plus, I mean, that guy will never find anyone who takes him as seriously as he takes himself, no matter how many opportunities he's handed.
Bill Maher, like Drake, needs a lot of ghostwriters in order to be able to be self-deprecating. Otherwise, like he's wearing it on his shoulder.
So Bill Maher, here's something. Bill Maher has to pay higher wages than any other show. Is it because he cares about his writers that much? No, he's actually really shitty to his writers. You might have heard some of the shit he said during the strike. It's because he is that unpleasant to work with that nobody will work for him. And a lot of the people that do work for him aren't even familiar with how freaking cringy he is. I was at a show once in LA and I overheard somebody who writes for Bill Maher just having a conversation with one of their friends, and I don't remember the person's name, and even if I did, I wouldn't repeat it. But the guy was just going, "Yeah, I got to get something for tomorrow's show. I guess it has to be about politics because I think that's what Bill Maher does." This is one of his fucking writers. This is one of his fucking writers. So that's, I mean, that's what Bill Maher is basically reduced to. Just somebody, and I'm not saying, oh, to be a good comedy writer, you have to pay attention to politics. Of course you don't. But it's one of those things, like he has to just get someone who just needs the gig. It'll be like, okay, what do you need? Jokes from, all right, fine. I'll write you these freaking like get off my lawn cringe jokes because it pays the bills. And it's just, I mean, it's just so painful to see. I mean, I don't watch Bill Maher regularly, but every time I've ever seen anything, I'm just like, oh my freaking God, who watches this guy? Then I talk to my dad and I'm like, that's who watches this guy.
I had a coworker sit down next to me in the office a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Did you see Maher last night?" And I was like, "I've never seen Maher not any night. I've never tuned in."
Not Maher.
You should have reported them immediately. No, I'm just kidding.
I haven't watched Maher in 10 years since he boycotted speaking at the winter commencement at UC Berkeley because the Muslim students were protesting him.
Rightfully so. He's a hateful bigot.
Yeah. It's one of those moments where like I'm not gonna make this all about like Maher, but that's an amazing insight. I love that. Like, and honestly, it brings me a lot of closure because I'll see clips of Maher's show, and I'm just like, I always knew he leaned on his writers because he doesn't have like a lot of talent, but this is just getting even worse over time, and it makes a lot of sense for people to be like, Oh, I don't know how many branches of government fucking are there even, right? Like,
well, yeah, and to be fair, I can't speak for his entire writing staff. I have no
I know,
idea,
I know.
And that was just someone I overheard, and maybe they don't even write for Barr anymore. But it's like, but I have heard, from enough credible places that the thing about the pay scale is true. He is just so difficult to work with, and he is so just not liked that they have to pay more. And it's not Bill Maher doing it, it's the network doing it, it's HBO. Like, they have to pay more because Bill Maher is just so difficult to work with. I have never, and I mean, dude, I was a road comic for 5 years. I've toured all around. I've never met anybody who, like some club owners who are old enough that they remember when Bill Maher was in the clubs. I've never met anyone that has a nice thing to say about him. I've never met anyone. I've heard stories of people literally throwing him out. This one club owner had a story. Bill Maher was in for the weekend, and he was just so insufferable that the guy, and of course this is this guy telling the story, so to be fair, but he literally just threw him out of the green room and said, "Get the fuck out of my club and never come back." And then the next day, Bill Maher's agent calls. And he picks up the phone. He goes, "Hey, I know you're really mad, but let me tell you my side of the story." And the agent just goes, No. Everybody hates Bill. I don't care about that. It's just you forgot to pay him. Can you put it in the mail? So it's like he has the worst. Yeah. Like he's just, I've never met him, but it's like he's one of those guys. There's nobody who has a nice thing to say about him.
I just imagine like Uber drivers tip him to get out of the car sooner.
I love listening to Tim Heidecker on podcasts talking, because you can really tell like how visceral his hatred is for Bill Maher, and it comes out in his spot on fucking impression of him and his podcast.
That parody he did of
Dutch angle.
The one he did with Fred Armisen, was just, so you're saying it's like anti-woke. No, I don't think that's what we're saying. Oh, so that's what you're saying. That's so freaking funny.
The brown liquor hour, just like
yeah. Oh, someone actually shouted out one of my favorite ones too, when he had the Haktua girl on.
Oh God.
And she was like, "You remind me of my grandpa."
And again, like Bill Maher, which is another thing that is notably like very sleazy sort of guy, was like talking to the Haktua girl about like, again, she's like 22 years old. Like a lot of really weird things about like what she was like when she was a teenager or something.
Yeah. He's the creepy guy. Well, Bill Maher. All right.
Yeah. I mean,
I did watch Religulous, in fairness. Yeah, I did watch Religulous. And at the time, I mean, it was very influential on me.
Listen, in 2005, during the Bush administration, it was really, it was a different information ecosystem. And so you can look back on it and you can see how it was anti-Christian, because for an American audience, like Christianity was a lot of the driving force for a lot of this, like not necessarily like nationalism or like a proto-nationalism, but definitely imperialism that you were seeing in the Middle East. But you could see even then some notes of like Islamophobia within it, because like if you're gonna say that like Muslims are bloodthirsty and they're like constantly throwing bombs everywhere, like have you seen what the American defense budget looks like? Like so it's just like you eventually look at that through the end. And I want to get to like this part really quickly about like going back to Zuck and all these other different things. I don't even want to go through the whole like Joe Rogan clip, because I think within context it's like a little bit different than how it's being reported with like the whole like masculinity thing. But you even see like how he's behaving with he does MMA now. He's got the broccoli boy haircut. He's wearing like chains. He's doing the several 5-figure watches. He's trying to I don't know, live the frat boy lifestyle that he thought he was going to live, but instead he created the checking out women app.
Right.
For like he created the checking out women website. And I think that the reason why I was kind of talking about all of this, how this all connects, is that what we're kind of hearing in the unraveling, you know, like Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden are talking about this like 11th hour shit. We're talking in the last couple of hours, literally less than 100 hours of Joe Biden's administration, essentially. But you're seeing these like last ditch efforts to try to save TikTok because they're realizing how unpopular this is with Americans, definitely young people, but like, you know, Americans in general getting rid of TikTok. I think the number's like 170 million people in America use TikTok. So wonderful. It's like when Vivek Ramaswamy just started like doing the hits of like 90s shows that Americans like and saying, this is trash, this is garbage, go to a science fair, learn to code, fuck Urkel. Like, you know, it's just like this is it's like pissing on a baby as a politician, right? It's like Bill Maher running for office. It's just like the worst things you could possibly do to just like be popular.
That might be what he does next, by the way. I can see that. I can see him running for
new
office.
rules, everybody. New rules.
He'd like run as a libertarian and think that's edgy or something. That would be what he'd do.
Oh yeah, he would do it for his show, like in the midterm, so it doesn't matter, or like to sell a book. Like it's depressing. But you know, like you're hearing that a lot of the lobbying to get rid of TikTok was coming from America's own Meta platforms, which definitely would never steal the data and spy on citizens around the world. So much so that countries that do spy on their citizens are like, okay, Meta's too much for us. We're blocking that app. Mark Zuckerberg, who I mentioned on the last episode, is largely responsible for the genocide in Myanmar, is definitely responsible for like, you know, increasing tensions between Indians and Pakistanis. Not that that's necessarily too difficult, but like, you know, doing that through
Fanning the
you know,
flames. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely fanning the pouring gasoline on the flames.
Right.
Yeah, homeless arsonists in LA-ing the flames. Yes.
On hang gliders.
From Hamas.
From Hamas.
Faster than the 405. Like I gotta get me one of them hang gliders. Altadena and Pacific Palisades in 30 minutes. Damn. But no. I think that, and you know, I want to hear what y'all think about this. Sorry for being long-winded. Is that like this TikTok ban is a play from Meta? They already own Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp. WhatsApp's really big outside the United States and has proliferation within the United States. Facebook is mostly AI slop, but it's popular with boomers. Instagram is more popular with like Gen X and millennials. This is just getting rid of some competition. People will say, but damn, what about YouTube Shorts? Anyways, so this is going to be really good for Mark Zuckerberg to continue to make a lot of money. And you're seeing all these different moves. Like he's moving the content moderation team, which Meta has content moderation. He's moving it to Texas. They're making all these different changes, literally printing it in your guidelines, saying outwardly xenophobic shit that I know I probably can't repeat on YouTube is completely fine to say about immigrants, about trans people, about all these other different marginalized groups is now, again, was already de facto fine to say on Meta platforms, but now it's like literally written in text and in print. I heard a story about the product head for Facebook Messenger has a non-binary child, and just this week, all of the trans pride and non-binary like themes in Facebook Messenger were just like gone, memory hold.
Damn.
So like this is obviously, you know, Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, they're doing this shift. And, you know, Ron, I know you were talking about like your optimism or your lack thereof towards how these figures will behave over the next couple of years and their you know, orbit around Donald Trump, or them being in Donald Trump's orbit rather. But it feels like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk are just like pumping up the right winginess because as CEOs, they're not really good at anything. They can't really do any of the jobs that like they oppress people to do. But what they are good at is kissing up to power and doing all of these different like shifty sort of maneuvers in order to like maintain and keep that power. And, you know, I think you're seeing that through what's happening right now.
Well, so to respond to a lot of what you just set up there,
I know it's hard.
No. It's cool. So Elon Musk, I think, is just being himself, because I think Elon Musk, and this is not an embellishment, I'm being literal. I think Elon Musk is a Nazi. So I think he is just being himself. Elon Musk is a Nazi. I think that Mark Zuckerberg is just a bored nerd who is just going to kiss the ass of whoever's in the White House. You know, when it was the Biden administration, he was all like, "Yeah, we'll moderate content the way the DNC wants us to," which, by the way, led people to misinterpret what that really meant. When people said, like, "Oh, Facebook has a left agenda," that's actually not true. What Facebook does. Facebook, their goal is to keep you on Facebook. So they're just going to feed whatever you're into. So if you start clicking right-wing media, they're going to feed you more right-wing media. If you're into, the other side, left-wing media, they're going to feed you more of that. However, keep in mind that the right-wing media and left-wing media is within the Overton window that they were permitted to let in. But I bet if you went play by play, you're going to find out they censored a lot more of anti-war stuff, of resources for LGBTQ youth. They censored a lot more of that than they did of QAnon or whatever else. But they still had this kind of permissible Overton window. And overall, they force-fed more conservative news. Why is that? Well, that's because most of the people on Facebook are older, and generally speaking, older people tend to lean a little more conservative. Again, generally, there's a ton of older lefties out there. I'm not trying to discount that, but that's all Facebook does. That's what they do. Now, because Donald Trump's in office, he's doing this whole, the whole right-wing, alt-right tech bro thing, which, I mean, that whole subculture is just so freaking sad and boring. Like I don't have it's just so insipid and just sorry. But he's leaning into that, and now he's saying, "Oh, we're not going to moderate content. We're just going to have a community thing like the way Twitter does, and we're gonna go to Texas, and we're gonna." So I think he just kind of kisses the ass of whoever's in the White House. To get to what you're saying about what's really behind this TikTok ban, you are right. It's a handout to domestic big tech, yes, but there's another layer to it. Mark Warner, in particular, has a lot of money invested on domestic software and domestic app development. So what they're trying to do with this TikTok ban, they're trying to kind of start a trend of fear and xenophobia towards any non-US based app. And China was a very, very easy target. When they actually did these TikTok hearings, they found out that, hey, guess what? None of your information that you give to TikTok is in China. Freaking none of it. And TikTok said, look, we'll even have a special thing. It can be in whatever U.S. state you want. You guys will run it. And the United States said, no, we're mad at you. And
they wouldn't show TikTok the evidence.
It was gross.
That they used against them.
No, they wouldn't, because they had none. The study revealed that actually all the other apps are worse. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying there's no privacy concerns with TikTok. Of course there is. But you know what's even worse? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. They're actually worse. That's why it was amazing watching people fall for nationalistic bullshit when they were going like, well, I'm just concerned about my information being leaked on TikTok. Oh, and you're complaining about this on Twitter. Interesting. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the whole thing was just a xenophobic smokescreen, and now they're seeing it backfire on them because they're realizing how unpopular this is. And not only that, but I think they're realizing what a horrible look it'll be. And the next time they want to say, well, look at these other countries censoring the internet, they won't have a leg to frickin' stand on. My friend Robin Tran, really funny comedian, she tweeted this once. She goes, I think the United States loves free speech so much. And don't get me wrong, I love free speech. I think it's a great thing. But she said, I think a lot of the big reason Americans love free speech as much as they do is because it's all they have. You don't have healthcare. You don't have education. You don't have any kind of social safety net. You don't have living wages. You don't have any of that. But, you can kind of say what you want, sort of. So you do something like this, the look that'll have on the national stage, or excuse me, the international stage, that's going to be a really bad look. And I think people know it.
Ray, you are the resident TikTok user here, and Red Note.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you call it by its a proper name?
Sorry, I'm a Cantonese guy
Shu?
myself.
So I've said a couple coworker anecdotes already, but I feel like that's where I get most of my, because before I worked in the office setting, I was sort of insulated into these spaces online where people are obsessed with politics and it's all they think about all day long, versus now I sort of get to hear the everyman's opinion at work. My coworker mentioned something about the ban, and she was like, well, aren't you, and I said, oh, I downloaded Red Note, and so I've been using that. And she was like, aren't you afraid of China having your data? And I was like, why would I give a shit about that? I mean, if it's a billionaire in the United States or someone in China, it doesn't make a difference to me, aside from the fact that if they're selling my data here in the United States, then sometimes I get a class action lawsuit check, which is pretty nice. And I do love the surprise $400 check I get from Snapchat or Facebook or whatever. But I mean, just the existence of that negates the narrative that if it happens in the United States, you'll be protected, because it's cheaper for them to pay out these lawsuits than to stop using your data in nefarious ways, to stop selling it to these third-party ad sites or whatever it may be. But it literally makes no fucking difference to me. Even if my data was being harvested and held in China, which it isn't, but even if it was, what do I care? That impacts my life not one fucking bit. It just makes no, and maybe it's just like a Zoomer mindset where all of my information has been online since birth, practically. Having social media from, like, I don't know, when I got a Facebook, like 4th or 5th grade. It's all out there anyway, and so what do I care now? At this point, what else are you gonna do to me? But shout out to Xiaoheng Shu. Did I just fuck it up? Because within seconds of joining the app, they figured out that I was a lesbian. It was so fast. I didn't even have to really like anything. I didn't have to scroll through the videos. They were just like, oh, here's lesbian couples. We figured you out instantaneously without even having any of my data. So shout out to them. They're doing it right over there.
Another friend of mine said when she got on, they did that, like, she got lesbian stuff too, and she's not gay. So maybe they're just any American woman. They're just like, they must all be gay.
Maybe that's just the intro for everybody.
Right.
This happened like last month, I think. Albania banned TikTok. I thought it was going to be forever, but apparently it's just for a year. But because like 2 teenagers got into like an argument on, I guess, in TikTok comments, I guess, and one of them stabbed the other one.
Oh my god!
And so Albania banned TikTok, but I guess it's just for a year. But honestly, for me, like, I never got on TikTok. Funny enough, actually, I just kind of remembered this. When Caesar and I were doing We Made It podcast, we actually got reached out to by the predecessor of TikTok, which I forgot the name, like Fire or something. Dan, do you know?
Musically?
No, it wasn't that. Or maybe it was like something like TikTok, but it was before TikTok came out.
There's a competitor like Triller or something?
No, it was like Fire something. This is a shame, but I remember like they reached out to us. They were like, "Oh, do some content for us or whatever." And at that time, there was like other like influencer people on there, and Bad Baby was on there.
Oh no!
So yeah, but anyway, we couldn't really figure it out. But and I don't know if that became TikTok or Musically then TikTok. I can't remember, but it was kind of like a predecessor. But honestly, I don't even care if they ban it. There's a part of me that like I kind of hate social media, so I'm kind of down for there to be one less. But I feel like I sound like an op to people when I say that. So, but as far as like the data thing, like that's ridiculous. I don't think that, like, what are they going to do with your information in China? Like, what are they going to do?
They're gonna clone me. I don't know.
Right.
From seeing the
Well-
thirst traps that I hearted. I mean,
Yeah. No, it's really silly, but yeah, if they ban it, if it gets banned again, I would be shocked if it gets banned. Honestly, I kind of don't think it's going to happen. Just because like there's so much like revenue within it, and I just feel like there's it's just too many people wrapped up in this thing for it to actually get banned. Like I just don't feel like America works that well for TikTok to be banned like tomorrow or whatever.
Well, I think another component here that hasn't been mentioned yet, but is very, very apparent, is another thing they don't like about it is they can't control the algorithm in this case. And also they're noticing that a lot of young people are using it to spread anti-war messages, and they don't like that either. So, that's another layer where they definitely don't like that. They don't like losing control of the message. And you've heard people make statements pretty much indicating that.
Well, Trump's going to save it because he's anti-war. So he would be down for the anti-war stuff. And that's why he's going to save it.
Damn it. I was enjoying my ghost pepper chips. But
Dan's over here eating a grilled cheese or something. What the hell?
I'm not going to advertise this company. But
Trader Joe's.
Damn it. I wanted to play this clip from a woman who was talking about doing surgery on someone who had breast cancer and how United Healthcare stepped in to do what they do best, which is make sure that people get the care they need. I'm sure that's definitely what happened here.
And it's 2025 and insurance just keeps getting worse. I just did 2 bilateral deeps and 2 bilateral tissue expanders for patients. And I've never had this happen before, but during the second deep, I got a phone call into the operating room saying that United Healthcare wanted me to call them about one of the patients who was having surgery today, who was actually asleep having surgery. And, said I had to call right now. So I scrubbed out of my case and I called United Healthcare, and the gentleman said he needed some information about her, wanted to know her diagnosis and whether her inpatient stay should be justified. And I was like, do you understand that she's asleep right now and she has breast cancer? And the gentleman said, actually, I don't. That's a different department that would know that information. And I was like, well, she does need to stay overnight tonight. And you have all the information with you because I got approval for this surgery. And I need to go back and be with my patient now. But yeah, it's out of control. Insurance is out of control. I have no other words.
I mean, that they have access to this information. It is a phone call away to a different department and don't even get me started on the fucking administrative costs of operating something that absurd. But but to say, you know what? No, let's actually bother the doctor who's scrubbed in for fucking surgery and make them tell us why we should have to pay for this woman to stay in the hospital room, who's under anesthesia currently, to stay in the hospital overnight. I mean, if
they want that scene from SpongeBob where they check Mr. Krabs' insurance and they literally like kick him down the hill where the insurance hospital is.
Well, free Diddy. I mean, free Luigi.
Whoa.
And
Diddy's the arsonist.
Free Luigi. You got some more work to do, buddy. It's an octopus. Got 8 more people to shoot. Or 7.
I like the idea that Luigi is actually in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, where there are like 7 evil healthcare CEOs they has to eliminate before he gets Ramona Flowers.
It's just amazing that this is happening and the public has responded the way they have, and you still don't hear any utterance of Medicare for all from people in power.
Right.
Like it's just absolutely incredible. I mean, it just shows you how hard the insurance lobby has, both parties. I mean, they just got them by the gullet big time. And it's pretty freaking wild. I mean, I think at this point, and I really don't want this to be the way it goes down. I'd much rather have something federal right away. But I think I think the only way there will ever be universal healthcare in this country is if one state gets it. And, they develop like a single payer system, a state like California or something like that. And that knocks the insurance company out of a big state. And then another
That's kind
state.
of how Romneycare worked.
Well, it's how, it's basically how cannabis happened, and it's kind of how it happened in Canada. I mean, it happened like one province at a time. Romneycare kept the insurance companies at the table. An actual single payer system would kind of knock them out. It's not ideal that way, but from a political standpoint, that might be the only way it happens, because otherwise you need to flip most of the Congress and Senate, most of it, because most of them would vote against it. And there's some that, maybe you're saying they're not, that when push comes to shove, they would. I mean, we see that all the time here in California with our single payer bill. So, I kind of think at this point, that's the only way it'll ever happen. Again, not ideal, but politically, I think that's the only shot.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even that we can't get the politicians to call for Medicare for all. We can't even get them to support a public option, which feels like we've regressed so far from, a moment where we almost had a public option, but then Chicago's favorite son, Rahm Emanuel, stepped in to ensure that wouldn't fucking happen. And then it's just, there was a moment in 2016 and then, again in the primaries in 2020 where it was like, people really want this, people support this. And now it's so severely evident with just, people who aren't politically engaged saying, yeah, I'm glad that Luigi killed that healthcare CEO. These people are parasites. So regardless of how much public sentiment grows, the corporate capture of our politicians, that stranglehold is not loosening at all.
Yeah, I mean, public option was one of Biden's many broken promises. He said he was going to fight for a public option, didn't do it. Yeah.
Even in California, Greasy Gavin in 2022 backed down from a pledge for single payer healthcare. So I don't know. Maybe if Ron, you're right, and it's going to be like a state level sort of effort, then hopefully JB Pritzker pays for everyone's healthcare personally out of his wallet.
Our big boy socialist governor, the people's billionaire.
You mean
you gotta
Jamie.
beat him like a pinata to get them to get the healthcare out.
That's Jamie Pritzker to you. I don't. I'm sure I could look this up to find out. But does Washington State have some kind of something with the healthcare, some kind of cool thing, or am I totally wrong about that?
Like a public option?
They got a bill floating around. I don't know if it's more extensive than that. I mean, it was tried in Vermont, and then they basically scared people off at the last second. They were like, "Oh, it's going to raise." What a lot of people don't realize is you're already paying more. You're already paying more. Like a single payer system, you would be paying less than you do. So it would just be infinitely more efficient, and then it would lead to something federal, because eventually you're just going to knock the insurance companies out of different states. And they'll be able to operate.
To speak to what you're talking about, Ron, I think another thing that people don't realize is that they always say that, the government is so efficient that it's bureaucratic and you have to call this department and that department. But I think what we just saw in that example is that private healthcare insurance is exactly like this too. And to get to those efficiencies, because even for me, someone who I think was radicalized on politics in general as a person experiencing healthcare in a different country and then coming to the United States. But those efficiencies are like, yeah, why do we have 500, like whatever the number is, like 10, 20 different like big health insurance companies, and if you change jobs, your vaccine records are with a different health insurance company, and you have to like someone has to like fax the paperwork.
Yeah.
It's a machine that hasn't been used in 15 years. Like someone has to fax the paperwork for all this like key medical information. But like it's so inefficient. If you have one big system, or hell, like even two, or like even 50 that run off of the states, and then like some system interfaces between them all that isn't tied towards private health insurance, where one company uses Windows, one company uses Mac, so the things don't talk to each other, right? Like there's so many different ways we can make this system more efficient, and when you make it more efficient, it is cheaper. And when everyone's paying into it, it is how risk pools and how insurance works. It is more solvent that way. But if you like with Medicare, it's not paid with in a risk pool kind of way. It's like we pay into it like with a tax. It requires political will of people wanting to continue Medicare, or for people finding it, expedient to them in order for that to exist. And that's just like not sustainable in a country where people need to survive on medicine that costs like $15,000 a month to get.
Yeah.
Well, I think that we have a long way to go when it comes to Medicare for all, because this is a deeply racist country, and there's a lot of people in power that really hate poor people and want them to suffer.
I mean, like you said this a lot about like, we'll never get Medicare at all for all in this country because that would involve people voting for marginalized groups, people of color, to get healthcare. And I was like, okay, that's definitely a really bold take. And then I started doing my history. I started reading about how I started reading about how basically 100 years ago in the 30s, how there were like efforts to do many other universal programs, healthcare.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why universities are the way they are at this point, because like over the years people were like, we don't want black people going to college too. So yeah, I mean, it's
the affirmative action thing, which hilariously I mean, I don't mean this hilariously because it has like real world consequences, but there were a lot of like Asian men and like white women who were like put towards the forefront of all of these different like anti-affirmative action cases. And what happened when affirmative action was taken out? Fewer Asian men, fewer women. it was like all the people who were like fighting to get rid of this affirmative action thing didn't benefit from it. So their whole theory that unqualified people were getting through, it's like, it's you who's unqualified. Actually, it's all these people who are like 5th or 4th place in their swim competition, and they're upset that someone who got a better time than them was trans, that are saying, okay, now I'm going to make this my entire issue and personality. Because like you said earlier, Ron, there's a lot of money in this shit. There's a lot of money in this shit.
I mean, we can't even get people to support free school lunches for kids because they're afraid that a poor black child might get fed during their school day.
We can't even get rent control in California 2 times. Like, you would think that that's the easiest thing to get people to vote for. 2 times in like the past, I don't know how many years, it shit it fails every time.
Yeah, man. Progressive California, where this past go around, we said no to rent control, but yes to prison labor.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like, we let ourselves be completely bamboozled by big tech in 2022, I want to say. When you got Uber and Lyft and all those like different gig work companies to pass those laws that were favorable to companies that were using contract labor and like not giving them rights as employees.
Oh yeah.
California was like, oh, give me some generic cartoon. It was just advertising.
It was such bullshit. And then a bunch of people were like, I'm going to go ahead and vote against my own interests because I like to make my own schedule where I only clear $4 an hour. Like, what are you doing?
They just advertised. Go ahead.
No, it's like you realize that's not a thing. They were like, you won't be able to make your own schedule. Yes, you will. It'll still work the freaking same. You'll just get paid what you should be getting paid. And maybe the CEO will only get to buy one house a year instead of like however many it was. Like it's unbelievable. And you know what? They tried that bullshit in the UK and it didn't work. The UK sniffed it out. But here in California, we failed the freaking test.
So yeah, it's kind of like what I'm worrying about is I think there are the seeds being planted. I think you have like Faz Shakir who's running for the leadership of the Democratic Party. And, I don't have a lot of faith in the Democratic Party in general, but I am a vulture and I like their infrastructure. And I like that you don't have to go through a whole song and dance to get on the ballot in a lot of different states. And I don't believe that you can kind of like take over or hijack that thing, even though I appreciate people who try and do the effort on the state and local level. I'm not going to get in their way. But I think the seeds are being planted for this, sort of like sea change to happen. Where we're able to, some politicians should be able to take this Luigi Mangione thing, for example, and then start to rally some, policy concessions, start to get people on record, do some Fox town halls and be like, hey, let me trap the Fox hosts into being anti Luigi Mangione, and then let me turn the audience and be like, hey, what's your opinion on Luigi and Mangione? And you get like raucous cheering and like wild applause and people ripping their shirts off and throwing their bras on stage.
I mean, the problem is it'll just be catharsis, at least for a while, because it's like, Republicans have control of everything.
But I think like I agree it's catharsis, but so much of the Trump movement you saw, like I spent so much of my time trying to take like an academic analysis of all of this stuff over the past like 10 years, 2 Trump administrations and a Biden one in between. And I'm just like, these are just disaffected people who like to feel like they're on top and can bully people online. And there's a lot of like deep-seated stuff within there. But as long as they feel like they're winning and they're triggering the libs, then they have power. And then once they have power and once they realize they're actually really powerless, then, those are the conditions that allowed geriatric Joe to even win an election in 2020. That and COVID. But like, I think that there is, it definitely has to be maneuvered very carefully. And it's going to be catharsis for a while. But once you defang this Trump movement of being cool, of being like, oh, they're triggering people, they're interesting, right? Like, it's not going to all of a sudden turn people into Democrats. I'm not sure I want those people in my coalition anyways, but it's going to depress that vote. When we're looking at like the midterm elections, like that happened in 2022, when a lot of people came out because of abortion, seems to be like kind of like a thing that people were talking about with Roe v. Wade. That depressed a lot of conservative turnout because I think they felt like they were losing. And at least in my experience as a content creator, when you make these people feel like little bitches, it really defangs the troll in them. And I'm hoping for different opportunities where we can go, are we winning yet? Are we tired of winning? I can't wait to be tired of winning. I want to take what J.R. Jackson said a couple months ago on the show into practice and just be like, I'm sick of explaining. I'm just going to take examples and take footage and just put it in people's face and go, okay, you see? How you feel about this? Because once people start to make those decisions and see on their own that they're not actually winning anymore, and these people are taking them for a ride that they have no control over, I don't know if they'll be on our side. And I think a savvy politician can make that work. But you're going to depress a lot of turnout from these people. They're going to be like, oh, I'm no longer triggering the libs doesn't work anymore. They're triggering me. They're making me run away. So, that's my little bit of optimism.
Yeah. I'll just
Ron,
say,
depress me.
Oh, really quick.
No.
I'm about to have to head out. So
Get your last word in.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that, you know, we're in a moment right now where conservatives are winning so much that like we felt such a cultural shift, and it sucks. Right now they're blaming the California fires on wokeness, on DEI, on lesbians, which is crazy to me. The idea that you wouldn't want a lesbian firefighter, because I never feel more safe in my life than when I'm with a sturdy butch. Okay, they've got this under control. The sunglasses are on the back of their shaved head. They're gonna lock in. They're wearing their mowing the lawn shoes. Okay, they're gonna get shit done. So that's such a fucking ridiculous point to me.
There's that meme of like lesbians running like a McDonald's like the Navy. It's
Exactly.
like yes, I would love Cal Fire to be run like the Navy. Actually,
Well, and the firefighters are doing an incredible job. Like
Yeah.
there's just no reasonable person could dispute that. Now, I mean,
and you couldn't. And let's be clear, like you couldn't like 5x the firefighters and be able to fight in 100-mile-per-hour winds. I think there's a good quote that was like, if there's a house fire and the winds are at 10 miles per hour, then I'm a firefighter. If it's a forest fire and the winds are at 80 miles per hour, then I'm an observer. I'm rubbernecking. Like there's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing we can do about that. So like, you know, I agree. Like let's be clear. The firefighters are doing like a great job of what they can do. A lot of those firefighters are incarcerated, being underpaid.
Yeah.
A lot of the non-incarcerated firefighters are also underpaid, especially
Yeah.
compared to what LAPD is doing, which is just sitting around and blocking traffic. But
well, and trying to just arrest people for no reason, and you know, like what else?
arresting people going to their homes.
Arresting people for feeding people on the streets. That's what the cops are up to. I mean, it's so ridiculous, and all that money that the fire department should have went to the frickin' police, and you know, it's been very, very frustrating to watch all of this unfold, and to just see, you know, and to see some of the reactions. I know you guys talked about some of this already, but some of the people who were just like, well, it could be. It's interesting to me. I don't see many people mentioning the fact that this could all be a power company. This could have all been Edison, which would make sense, because remember what happened with PG&E some years back. These power companies, they don't invest in their infrastructure because that takes away what shareholders get, and California is usually in a drought. That leads to frickin' fires. But people are just like, well, that's a possibility, but are we sure it wasn't a homeless guy with a marijuana cigarette? Are you frickin' serious? Like, are you real? You're real. That's unbelievable. Like, it's just, I mean, it's just mind-blowing to me. And we live in an era where multiple things can't be true at the same time. It's either all or nothing with everything, where it's like multiple things are all true here. Here's one truth. We're in a freaking climate crisis, and that's a big culprit here. We are in a climate crisis. 2, yes, Karen Bass, I'm sorry, was inexcusable here. She mismanaged this whole freaking thing. That money should have went to the firefighters, not the cops. She should not have made her trip. And the people making excuses for that, I'm sorry. There were wind advisories, significant Santa Ana wind advisories, and the Red Cross was on warning. Other city departments and city officials were on warning. If you're the freaking mayor of Los Angeles, you don't go out of town when that's going on. I know, well, we couldn't have predicted the fires. No, but there was enough that when you're the mayor, you cancel that trip. All right. I'm not saying you never leave the country or anything like that. That's ridiculous. But when you have warnings like that, the Red Cross is on patrol. Other city departments are on patrol. Other city officials are on patrol. Yeah, you say, I'm going to sit this one out and stay in the city I'm a freaking mayor of. I'm sorry. But then you see these people doing this mental gymnastics to kind of imply we would be better off with Caruso, which is just political fan fiction. I mean, you're on a different planet. If you were to, all the money went to the cops. So you're saying we'd be better off with the guy who wanted to double the police budget, who wanted to make new divisions of cops?
Yeah, no, I'm just like playing about that because like Jank endorses.
And he was proud of it. He's doing a victory lap about endorsing Rick Caruso, which, by the way, you can cut me off if I'm going too far in the weeds here, but God, this has been making my blood boil all freaking week.
I do want to let Ray go because I know.
Sorry.
Sorry, Ray.
It's a little bit later for her on their end, but like, thank you very much, Ray, for joining.
Really quickly, I just want to plug Tuesday next week, I'm going to be on Movie Night Extravaganza, and we're going to be covering Lost Highways. And just today, we obviously heard the news that David Lynch passed away. So our show is going to be extra special. It wasn't planned this way. It was just, incidentally, this was our next episode of the show. But everybody check that out. Movie Night Extravaganza on YouTube, Twitch. You can probably also see it on my channel.
Yes, Movie Night Extravaganza.
Tuesday?
Huh?
Tuesday?
Tuesday. Okay. All right. But have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Ray. Yes, Movie Night Extravaganza with Christina, who's also frequently on Power Report. Definitely check that out. But no, yeah, we were talking about these fires, Ron, and all of us on screen here, being in the area and seeing a lot of the stuff on the ground. It has, in a lot of ways, not that I wasn't fairly radical before, but it's definitely continued to radicalize me. In seeing how, I have a good friend who I'm going to be having on soon, who is part of one of the groups in LA that has been doing a really good job of distributing masks and N95 masks. They were doing this during COVID-19. But
I think I follow them.
Yeah. I think Mask Block LA. Yeah.
They're awesome.
Yeah. And so the city of Los Angeles and the county of Los Angeles had to lean on them to get masks because there was a mask shortage and they didn't have the infrastructure to organize the masks. I was going back with my cousins to Altadena to their place, and the overwhelming don't donate clothes. There's too many clothes. We have enough clothes. Don't donate. There's too many people who are volunteering here. Please go down the street. So there are more people who we can we can help in other places. We have a lot of food here. Please send the food elsewhere. There are people on the street who are coming out and volunteering their time to rake up brush to make sure that when the winds continue to pick up later in the day and in the evening, that didn't cause more fires in places that were successfully fought and successfully saved. All the cops were doing there was sucking oxygen. Yeah. It's an incredible thing. You're bringing in National Guard and National Guard, they're not trained firefighters, but you got to think they can do something more than just arrest homeowners, right? You're letting the vulture real estate agents through the blockades, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not letting the homeowners through.
Yeah, no, it's been unreal to watch all this, and there's just plenty of blame to go around, and it's been ridiculous, but the firefighters on the ground giving it their all, and the people who have showed up to help, and all the mutual aid efforts, that stuff is encouraging. And you try to kind of lean on that stuff and realize that it's there, because if you don't, you just lose your freaking mind.
Yeah, it's all these different arson narratives. Yeah, I hated seeing it. Was such a trap, and I even saw it in the LA Times too, which a lot of these city papers, they do local papers and local journalism. Generally, it's good work, and the people who work there generally do good things. But also, if a politician needs to get some spin out there, they're going to go to your New York Times, your Washington Post, your LA Times. They're going to go to those local papers, Politico if it's DC especially. And you got this one that was blaming the fire department for not deploying enough trucks in the right places for the fires. I'm how many LA County fire stations are there in the fucking mountains? we don't have them stationed up there in the mountains. Plus, considering the population of LA, as the fire chief has said, we have fewer firefighters and fewer fire stations than LA has had in 60 years.
Yeah, well, and she was warning about it. I mean, there were those letters that she sent that they were
but there's this idea that, and the people that were defending Karen Bass were oh, well, she wanted to cut 17, but they end up getting 55. I'm I'm sorry, we didn't just discover fires in Los Angeles with this most recent budget, right? You can't act things even beyond Karen Bass, but you can't act successive Democratic administrations. I forget who's like the fail ambassador to India that Joe Biden had. He used to be the mayor. I don't know if it was Viragosa, but like someone else. But like you have all these successive administrations of Democratic officials, and it's going to be a lot of Republican officials too, who definitely wouldn't fund the government that's for damn sure, right? But every single time you are seeing consistently how they ignore fire budgets, ignore budgets for they complain about homeless people starting fires. I said this on the show last week. You want to know why people start fires when they're outside? Because it's cold outside in the winter and people like trash anywhere in the world to get heat easily, right?
Yeah.
If you want to stop that problem and you want to stop straining the firefighters who are already strained and should be paid more than the cops who are, again, just sitting around and not really doing much and just causing a lot more problems than they're helping with most of the time, then perhaps you start to fund these other city programs so that, okay, you have people who are in shelters or, in their own homes and places to live in. You have affordable housing so that people can just turn on a heater or turn on a fireplace and not, strain the fire department when the Santa Ana winds are going on, right? Like, so there's all these different, it's a small-minded, systemic approach that not only are the politicians not having, but a lot of the media figures, like the people we're talking about who are critiquing this, are falling for these small-minded tricks of how things aren't getting done. And it's just like, it's been so frustrating to see.
Or they're parroting it out of self-interest, one of the two.
And laziness, too.
And laziness. I mean, look, because that's sort of like to talk about the other side of it, look, I think that there is a lot of blame for Karen Bass here. Yes, to the point that I honestly think she should resign. However, there's also a lot of people, I think, over blaming her to the point where it's just ridiculous, and to the point where they're trying to be like, see, climate change isn't a thing. It's just California Democrats. Say that sentence again out loud and tell me how stupid it sounds to you. I mean, that's
a Marxist Karen Bass.
It's a Marxist. Yeah, right. It's so, it's one of those things where it's like multiple things can be true at the same time. And it's like, and for me, it's like, I've been tweeting about this and I had people, do you regret not supporting Caruso? No, there's no way we would be better off. That's so ridiculous. And then they just make shit up. There's so many things that she should be on the hook for. And then they just make sure they're just like, well, she didn't do anything about homelessness. Okay, her response to homelessness has been grossly insufficient. But if you actually look at what's happening, she has been marginally better than her predecessor. Is it grossly insufficient? Absolutely. Is it better than Garcetti? Also, yes. It's better than the last guy. Would it be better than Caruso? Yes. You know what that guy's plan for homelessness was? He wanted to basically get a bunch of tiny homes and push them into a camp. And then here's the real repulsive part about that plan that nobody really talked about much. That plan was contingent on getting a land authority that a mayor has never had before. So Rick Caruso, a developer who has made billions as a developer, would have had a land authority unique to him as the mayor, and the first time a mayor has ever had that authority. What do you think he would have done with that? He would have made it his freaking playground. I mean, that's why you don't elect a freaking billionaire developer mayor. One of many reasons. So, I mean, these people, and then people who are proud to endorse that, it's like, you either don't understand local politics at all, or you're just really looking out for yourself, and you don't give a shit what happens to Los Angeles. Because I'm sorry, as bad as Karen Bass has been, and she's been a shitty mayor, and I voted for her knowing she would be a shitty mayor, because I realized, I was like, we can handle shitty mayor. We've had a lot of that. We can't handle what someone like Rick Caruso would do.
We can handle like a bumbling, corrupt person. We can't handle a Bloomberg in LA. Like that's it's gonna be a problem. Yeah,
right.
And you know what that's called? Lesser of two evils.
Kind of. I mean, yeah, kind of. Not
what it's about, man. That's democracy.
No,
That's what we got.
In California, I mean, like, and to meet in the middle, another terrible centrist American fallacy here. But yeah, like in California, we should be having elections between Democrats who are the right wing and any sort of leftist party where, whatever you have in Oakland, whatever you have in San Francisco, whatever you have in San Bernardino, whatever you have in LA, San Diego, etc. But no, what we have are we have Republicans who run as independents or, pretend to be moderate, fiscally conservative, socially liberal, who pull Democrats to the right, and then Democrats who follow them to the right, and an electorate who hates them both. An electorate who's just like, can you just make the DMV line shorter? By the way, Republicans love to complain about the DMV, and it's like definitely not one of the brightest parts of the government. But the DMV has gotten like really automated and faster lately. So, shout out California DMV. I'll give it that.
Yeah, but dude, local's a different animal. I mean, I don't buy the lesser of two evils things because like eventually your options just get further and further to the right.
No, I'm saying that's Karen Bass and Caruso.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and I guess in the literal sense, you're not wrong in the literal sense, but it's like local is just a complete case by case basis because it's all about like what are you gonna do with the resources a city has to offer, and there's just a world of difference between somebody who's just not really gonna push back on anything and do much for the people, and somebody who has like a complete developer agenda. Like those are two completely different things. One of them, that's kind of par for the course for LA. The other one is like, holy shit, man. That would just bring any type of city to its knees.
I feel like with LA though, it's such a big city. Like you're talking so much money, like so many people. It's like damn near not local. You know what I mean? Like it's just such a big entity, and I feel like there's so many like hands in the pot that aren't politicians. Like it's just going to be tough for any mayor to do anything significant. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know, dude, because like the other side of that, we only have 15 districts. We are a big freaking place, but we only have 15. We should have more, by the way, I think. But we only got the 15 districts. I mean, it's still run like any other city. It's a city in the national spotlight, absolutely. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's just and by the way, like I mean this in an encouraging way. I mean, it's one of those things where grabbing a hold of power is actually somewhat attainable, comparatively speaking. You can't do much about the systemic rot in federal electoralism. Like you really can't do a whole lot about that at the end of the day. I'm not saying don't try, but that's a pretty long freaking road. But locally, I mean, hey, in recent years, they got about 4 actual progressives on the city council in Los Angeles. That's not bad compared to what they could have. And
they couldn't get the fire department funded though.
No,
you have a comptroller who's able to say like,
you have a controller. I mean, that was the first time in my life somebody who I supported since the primary went on to win in anything.
Damn.
In anything. Kenneth Mejia. That is the first time in my life somebody who I supported in the primary went on to win a general election. It's never happened to me.
He's very good at like being honest about the budget from a progressive perspective. Nithya Raman as well, also very good.
I like Nithya Raman.
I think, yeah, especially on the local level, on like council, this is a long game thing. I think I kind of like sit in between both folks because like both physically on screen, but what are y'all talking about? Because you can't compare New York to LA, even though they are big population centers in the United States. In both places, on a local level, you are able to get a lot of really progressive folks like kind of come in through, and progressives on some issues, not on other issues. Like it depends a lot on the local seat, right? But New York you have the 5 boroughs, but it's pretty like kind of united. Los Angeles, people were getting a real speed run lesson in the fact that Los Angeles is really a confederacy of like a lot of different neighborhoods and cities that have their own services, and sometimes they borrow like sometimes like some cities have their own fire departments, some cities just borrow from the county, some cities do both. Like it all kind of balances, and I agree to the point of a BAM. Like there's only so much a mayor can do even in that scenario.
Sure.
That said, no, like I'm totally with you, Ron, on the sense of you can only vote lesser of two evils. Like you have to catch yourself doing that in multiple elections and notice that that's a trance, because then you will get down to this path we're on, where in a state like California, where even the grumbling conservatives, except the ones in Huntington Beach who have Confederate flags, but like even the grumbling conservatives in California are like pretty liberal. We should be having honestly more interesting political conversations on the local level than just Democrat versus Republican. But we're stuck on this. We're stuck on this. We're stuck on this, not to blame you, Bam, or anyone, but like we're stuck on this because we end up playing into this lesser of two evils thing, because the Democrat we're always electing is more right wing than we want, because they are trying to pander towards Republican votes. Whereas that's just like not the opinions we want. We need, like, what I've been kind of trying to say, I've been trying to like spread the seeds for, is that like this is a great third party opportunity in California to be able to say the Republicans wouldn't have helped with this because they support all of the conditions that let this fire happen, and they would definitely not support any of the relief efforts. You can see what the California Republicans are doing at Mar-a-Lago and going on Fox News right now, but you see what the Democrats are doing. You see the mismanagement of funds for care for the unhoused. You see the not allocating more funds for public transportation, all these other different like systemic things that would make these broader issues better. Funding for the fire department, training for the fire department, fire brush and controlled burns in these places that we shouldn't have. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but like, that I guess like to pull back in, like that is, we should be able to advocate for a candidate that cares about those things and can frame those things in a way that people who have voted for Democrats, Republicans in the past can all get behind, because that's what they stand for locally in the city. Bam, you need to run for off. No, right?
That's what I'm saying. We just need to find that person. Who's that person? If you know somebody, encourage them to run.
That's what I was gonna say really quickly. And like Ron, I know you're like really chomping to get in here. I definitely want to let you in, but like it's like you need to. This doesn't happen overnight. You need to get people elected to like city council first, and then they need to like get that name exposure, and then they can do a mayoral run, and then they can do run for state office or attorney general or whatever, right? So it has to start somewhere, and it's not even going to start with one election. And like you said, Ron, you've been around the block a couple times. It's really hard to support an incumbent and see them make it all the way to the general. Like you get a lot of losses. That's a lot of losses when you're doing this sort of game in business, right? We've seen it with Bernie Sanders, but you have to start to lay the groundwork so that you lose one time, but when you run again the second time, you're not starting from scratch. You already have that groundwork of people who almost got you there the first time. And that second or third time, sometimes people make it, but it's time, it's effort, it's a process. I don't think we have a lot of time right now, but that's kind of how it works.
No, I feel you, man. I mean, and yeah, I mean, I think those are all really good points. I mean, I have, when it comes to electoral politics, I have more hope at the local level than any other one. Like it's definitely where I have more optimism, or maybe just hope. I would say hope, not optimism necessarily. Like there's a difference, right? But and the thing for me, local in particular, is really a case by case basis. That's why I was a little like, I'm not going to say like, well, it's just the lesser two evils. That's it. Like, no. It's like a case by case thing where you really look at, what's this person about? What's their agenda? What are they going to do with these resources? At the federal level, it's just an entirely different freaking game. But at the local level, it's just like there's just kind of a more clear vision of what certain like what certain mayors would do and what other mayors would not do. And one of the problems with like, oh well, get a clipboard and run. Look, you got to also be keen to the fact that we do jungle primaries here. It's not like our only election was Karen Bass and Rick Caruso. We had a jungle primary. I didn't support either one of them there. I voted for Gina Viola. She was the leftist option, but she didn't make it through the jungle primary. Only Karen Bass and Rick Caruso did, because you need a hell of a lot of money to make it past when you're running for mayor of Los Angeles. And so then it's like, well, what do you do? So
see, that's what I was addressing. That what do you do? That's what I was addressing.
Right. No. I hear you. I don't. Yeah. I totally get it, and I don't totally disagree. I just think it's like, I don't know. I think people need to start viewing local through a different lens. Like they need to kind of treat it differently from state to federal.
I'm not saying like. Well, also let me just say I don't vote in like LA proper. And I hopefully
why not? No, I'm just kidding.
But like, I'm not saying like, I'm not a cynical person. I'm saying like, there happens to be a lot of times when you're voting for all intents and purposes, the lesser of two evils. It doesn't, you don't like that term sucks, but like, if you're like, okay, this person's bad and this person's not as bad, let me just pick the not as bad person, like, and just what you said, there was the leftist option, but she didn't make it because you need a hell of a lot of money to get there. The people that's getting that much money are probably not the people that's on our side,
mm-hmm.
But then one of them is a billionaire developer cop or whatever. So let me not vote for that person, but I agree. Like on the local level, like it's good. It's great to do like the research, and it's important. And I hope that, these people on the city council that are progressive can make it to that level, but we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. I mean, they're still outnumbered, man. I mean, it's still like, there's only 4 of them and like, 11, not so, although some city council members, they're, kind of reasonable. It's like half the time I agree with the way they vote, half the time I don't. But yeah, no, I mean, it's just my thing with just having like a steadfast rule, like, oh, lesser of two evils is if you want to take a look at 1980 to present, I think the case could be made that it has not worked. I mean, we've been doing that since Reagan. The country has gotten more and more fringe, further and further to the right. Our over to window has shifted, I think, an absurd amount. It doesn't reflect public opinion because we're a complete corporate controlled oligarchy. And a lot of those strangleholds just don't apply locally. I mean, I think that's like where I was going.
Yeah,
but,
I agree with that. No, I agree with that totally. Yeah.
That's kind of like where I'm always an advocate of like not. I think sometimes in these conversations, which are like really important to have, we can get locked into this is the strategy or this is like the pragmatic way. When I think we're kind of all saying this just like in different ways. But you have to, and I don't think we even like disagree here. It's all just like different approaches, right? But like,
no, I'm disagreeing with you, Dan. Fuck you, Dan. I'm disagreeing with you.
Of course, that's usually how it's usually how hour 2 of the show goes. Hour 3, right?
Dan's gonna not invite you to a screening later.
You used to it.
That's always how it starts.
Did you answer the jungle primary question? Somebody wanted to know why is it a jungle primary?
Yeah, I was answering like how they work, and I had noted that it's when 2 top candidates, regardless of party, make it to the general. I'm not sure why it's called a jungle primary. It's probably racism.
I think it's well, maybe.
No. The reason's like it's meant to be more like well,
I think it's because it's not confined to parties. I mean,
it's meant to convey wild. That's meant to convey like no like boundaries. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you could get two Democrats in the general or two Republicans, or you know, like it's not. I actually like it better than other systems. Like I like it. I mean, I think it's cool that, I mean, if you want to kind of get into like some third party talk, it's like a place like California, it's a lot easier to register for a third party because you're really not tethered in the way you can vote. I mean, there's some states out there and in some areas where everything is Democrat, Republican. So if you don't register either Democrat or Republican, you're not going to have a say. And like you're not going to have a say in your city council. You're not going to have a say until the general, at least. And that sucks. Like that's really not cool. So I mean, it's not at all.
And when you register, you then have to play by those party rules. And if you don't, you get ostracized. And when you do, there's no going back. There's some certain doors you close. There's no going back.
Yeah, I mean, it really blows. And I mean, look, I'm registered as a green. And it's because I live in a state where that's just a lot easier to do. I mean, you know, if I lived in a state where it was the way I described, I probably would have to register Democrats. I wouldn't want to.
Oh no.
American Independent Party.
Yeah, right. Jeez. But yeah, I mean, anyway, I don't think we have time to like get into those weeds now, but yeah, I mean, that's just one of the big problems. It's like you really do tether people into these two parties in so many cases, and it's just
and because you can do that in California, Dan's able to register for the National Socialist Party. That's what it's called, right?
They're socialists. They're just all over the place.
I like.
I've never heard of this before.
They have pretzels at their meetings. I'm a very simple man. I just like catering. I'm just really into the catering. Yeah. I think there's just a lot. I've personally felt the most hope. I'm glad I came to news and media not as like a news and media person, but as someone who like worked in politics first, because I have that grounding experience of talking to Republicans and using the power of words to get them to like advocate for very liberal things. And you know, like it there's so much possibility, I think, especially on the local and state level, when you talk about issues that aren't super tied to national news, right? Like we can get one step ahead and we can kind of like hack this sort of game and really talk about like issues that affect local people.
Right. And honestly, I feel like going back to the rent control vote, like imagine that it was something that was able to get passed here in California. I feel like, Ron, you were actually saying this earlier. Like it could be like, it's basically a domino effect. Like, you know, you have something like that in California of all places. You know, we get like this bad rap all over the country. But if people are like, wait, what? Like they have like a rent control? Like what? Like, well, why the hell don't we have that here in wherever? Like everywhere they're saying the rent's going up, you know, and including red states, let's say Georgia or something like that. Like, okay, well, let's do what they did. Or if there was a single payer healthcare system here, which is totally doable in this state. You know, once people know, once people know something like that is happening, and especially here in California, yeah, if it happened in Washington, like nobody knows, like it's not going to really matter that much. But if it happens in a state like this where we get so much news and so much coverage, I think that would start the domino effect in different places around the country, then can lead to like a federal level.
Well, the big thing too, and I mean, honestly, any state would make a buzz, but with a state like California, you also have to factor in just the population of it all. Right. I mean, there's so many freaking people in California. Right. So if you just knock the insurance company out of all those people's lives, that's going to hurt them. They're going to freaking feel that. And now all of a sudden they can't market in California. They don't have a presence in California. All of their employees are going to start working for the state system now. And they're going to be like, wow, I get paid better. I have better benefits. And I'm not being forced to be evil on behest of a soulless corporation. This is way better. I'm going to talk to my other colleagues who are still with, fuckface insurance company in other states. And I'm going to tell them how great this frickin' is. And then those people are going to go out and vote. So yeah, I mean,
what's going to happen then is the CEO of whatever fuckface insurance is going to shoot the governor of California.
The OK Corral at the State Farm Arena.
Shoots Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not joking.
Man, I mean, what sucks is that we just have a rotating cast of villains when it comes to, because it's like, they take turns pulling the bill, and then no one pays a political price for it. And until somebody does, it's going to keep happening. It's like first Rendon was the villain, then Ashkalra pulled it, then Buffy Wicks or whatever, I forget her name, but she pulled it most recently. And they're all just running shield for their colleagues, and until somebody pays a political price, they would get a vote on single payer if the people really pushed it. And whoever was going to pull the bill knew that if I pull this bill, I'm not keeping my job. There'd be a vote. Because nobody would pull it. Nobody would. They don't want to lose their frickin' job. But that just hasn't happened since about 2013.
I think you're gonna have to see people in the streets about it.
Totally.
You're gonna have to see boots on the ground about it. It's really important. And maybe hopefully whenever that's something that we could do. You know what I mean? Whenever it gets up there, you guys will know before me, I'm sure. We got to organize. Who do we got to shoot? I don't know. Who do we got to?
Careful, man.
No, literally, you got to get on the streets. You got to make the posters and make it a big deal. Because also it is it's not something everybody's going to know about. So if you're on the street with the posters and people are like, what's going on? What are you guys protesting about? About this single payer healthcare thing, dude. You want to be suffering under a fuckface insurance, or you want to get some single payer out here?
We're all really tired of fuckface. They're right up there with United, man. They're terrible.
Garbage.
I know, it's United, fuckface, State Farm. One of you were saying well, when you lose a lot of this insurance, it's going to affect a lot of people. Yeah. What's going to happen when something tragic happens to you and you need to call a company and wait on hold, and who's going to be there to play that hold music for you? Who's going to be there to tell you that your claim's denied and that you have to call this other department or this other phone number? People are going to really miss that warm embrace of being lost within the system during their darkest and most stressful moments. I really can't. That's why I'm so glad Obama protected the insurance companies. So that's really, if you like your doctor, as I said,
we all just gotta have a beer. Just gotta go along, have a beer.
The beer summit. We just gotta have a beer with. We just gotta have a beer with my insurance company.
Insurance companies to the patient, they just gotta have a beer. Insurance companies, doctors, they just have a beer. Should we keep this patient alive? Well, people want to stay alive. The water inflate's fine. I have a Netflix deal.
That impersonation is just good enough and just bad enough to be hilarious.
It's pretty bad, but thank you. It's definitely not good.
It's close enough to be funny though.
Ron, I appreciate the effort. I can't do that.
I want to talk to you.
I love when I find with a guest that I could do a certain, or not do a certain impersonation. My favorite is me and Matt Bender doing Mickey Mouse. That's a particularly interesting one.
I used to do it okay, Bernie Sanders. I'm not sure if I still do it okay, but I used to have a bit in my act where I did a Bernie Sanders impression. So I got okay. It was just one bit. I'm not an impressionist. I don't do impression. I have no problem. There's a lot. I believe in a country where all Americans can do an impression, regardless of their economic status.
not just the top 1%
Let's
of
stop 1%.
0.1% of 0.0001% of top most talented impersonist. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna give Dan Obama and I'm gonna give Ron Bernie.
Racist.
Dan, remember you were doing that impersonation of Xi Jinping?
Oh
Remember
no,
that?
no. Bam! Remember when you were making fun of Vivek Ramaswamy's accent?
Okay, he doesn't have an accent. He has a 5 head, not an accent.
This has been 3 hours of political mania. This has been the last.
Oh yeah, it's 9.
Yeah, this has been the goes by like that, right?
Yeah, this is fun. You guys are fun to talk to. Thank you for having me.
You've been fun to have on. We'd love to have. Yeah, please come on back. Ron's film again. Please check out Left at Wall. You can pre-save it on Apple TV Plus. Today, like as we're talking.
Yeah, you just go if you have Apple TV, type in Left at Wall, hit pre-order, and please do that. If you don't have Apple TV, it's going to be released across platforms on January 24th. You'll be able to get it on Apple TV. You'll be able to get it on YouTube Movies, Google Play, etc., etc. You can follow me at Ron Placone on all platforms. RonPlacone.com is my website. And yeah, I thank you for playing the trailer. And yeah, I hope you all check out the movie. It's a movie that is a comedy that calls out the Wall Street machine, which the Wall Street machine is behind pretty much all of our problems, from for-profit healthcare to climate crisis to the
defense contractors,
the war machine. So yeah, the movie kind of looks through all that under the backdrop of a story similar to the GameStop thing. So it's a fun comedy. Left at Wall. Yes. Thank you for letting me talk about it. I'm excited for it to come out.
Excited to watch it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a very good watch. I highly recommend folks check it
Okay,
out.
we get it, Dan. You saw it already. We get it. Okay, you're special. We get it. All right.
So mad about this. It's really he just wants to be invited to more things, Bam. I'm sorry. We'll have you. We'll have a beer. We'll have a beer.
Have a beer. Yeah, you know what? You watch the movie. Watch the movie on Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus. Have a beer.
Thank you.
I went Left at Wall on all of the platforms. All the platforms.
From the window to the wall.
To the window to the wall. Left at Wall.
Thank you all. Left at Wall. Thank you all for listening and watching on Twitch. I'm going to do a raid to a channel that Philippe had recommended. Bam, Ron, you can feel free to just like hop off once the title card is on. But thank you all for listening and watching. The power is always within you. Cheers.
See y'all.
Thanks, y'all.